right, so I'll give it a few minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
So now I gotta like hold my phone like this and feel crazy.
Or figure out a really good prop.
I tried last time; it fell like 100 times.
You used to have that tripod thing for it back in the day. The arm bar or whatever you would use to go live on.
Oh, what did I? Oh, yeah. I like had it connected to like my lamp or something.
Oh, was it like that? Weird.
Yeah, it was like a clamp, and then, I don't know where that went. Whoops.
You ever do any tattoo production, Jim? Videos of you tattooing, things like that?
Actually, before I started tattooing, we did a couple like time lapse in the shop, but I mean, back then I was using like Adobe Premiere, and it was just an absolute nightmare because the computer could not handle. Crash. After like 2 videos, I was like, this computer can't handle it. I don't want to do it anymore.
Weird.
I think there's a big market for it. Like people, like I feel like would eat that shit up on like Twitch and stuff. Like either like just live streams or like a time lapse of somebody doing a painting or something.
Yeah, that stuff. I feel like anything of that sort is so satisfying to watch.
Exactly. It's just like calming. You just get like some. I hate to say it, but like that like lo-fi hip hop that like everybody's into, like playing. Yeah, cool. Perfect background music while I cook dinner or whatever.
Yeah. That stuff will stumble along in my playlist all the time, and then I'll just be in like 2 hours straight of lo-fi hip hop before I'm like, hey, wait a minute, this shit's just been random beats for like the last, I can't even remember.
Is this the same song?
Yeah. When did I thought it was gonna end at some point? Never ended.
All right, I'm just loading my computer so that I can get onto Twitch and see comments and stuff like that.
Word.
Yeah.
Yes, it seems like it's pretty difficult to organize a group of people to get onto a video call and
can you kill the fan too?
At the same time. Can you guys hear my fan? Because I'm not turning it off.
No, I can't hear your fan. You're fine to keep it on, but my mic picks up my fan like a mofo.
Because it's pretty spicy out there today. So
I turned my AC on today. I'm that asshole.
Because there's also like 100 kids outside right now setting off fireworks. And I just want to know where their parents are. That's all I want to know. Just like why are you outside? Go inside.
Are you in New Britain right now, or are you back in Manchester?
I'm in Manchester right now.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's very appropriate for New Britain.
I mean, it's appropriate for Manchester as well. I mean, there's very minor differences, but I think New Britain is a little more rough. I think Manchester's like wannabe rough. Like they're like trying really hard, but then you're just like, can you just get out of my way? And then they do.
I mean, it's not officially summer in New Britain until I start seeing the ATV and the motorcycle like wheelie boys flying around town. So I haven't.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Also, too, I live on like a pretty main road in New Britain, so you're probably gonna pick up a bunch of like super loud mufflers and systems in ambulances on this. So
it's all good. The production value is not the pinnacle of our show here. We're bringing the good content.
Still loading, so give me one sec. Oh. Yeah, so we are, I think this time around we're like, we're just going to get a little more scripted. We're going to have things more planned. I think it's still just going to be. I think it's just going to be winging it every time we do this.
Every time.
But I mean, at least have some different people on to talk about whatever. It's not going to be anything like what's his name? Have you watched that tattoo podcast there, Jim? What's it called? Books Closed.
Mm-hmm.
I like them. I think that, I mean, some of them are cool. And then some of them you listen to them and you're just like, I'm not into this. I don't really want to.
I mean, most of them I really like. Some of them where he's had like kind of like the Instagram like famous people, where it's like, I'm not really.
Yeah, but a lot of times he does that. He did that to be like funny almost.
Yeah.
Like he'll like some of the people he interviews like ironically, and I don't think they even know.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of I mean whatever, but some of them I've watched like more than once. Like some of them, like the Tim Hendricks one, I think I watched a few times, and the Tooth Taker one I watched a few times because
that one was hilarious.
He just had this way of talking where I was just like, this guy scares me.
Articulate.
Yeah, but he's also like killed people. So I was like I should listen to him. Like either because he's got something good to say or because he's gonna murder me. So yeah. So I mean, even if a lot of people don't like pop into the actual live stream, like it's all being recorded. So I mean, it's not like we're talking to ourselves. I mean, people will see it one way or another.
Yeah, I'm working on getting that YouTube public, the first one. It's finally up there in the actual channel. So now I just gotta upload this one. Well, they'll both be up like at the same time probably.
Oh. Cool.
I can also get like a multi-stream going in the future where we do it to like Facebook and to YouTube as well.
OnlyFans.
Hell yeah. That's when we'll be making the real money.
Yeah.
That's in my butthole.
I can't believe it. I can't believe how many people are just making bank off that. Like,
I mean, why not, dude? I don't know. Like, if you can't make it any other way.
I
mean, I guess, but
it's the way of the future. You don't even have to do shit. You just post like some random pictures or videos every once in a while. Getting what, 5, 10 more each?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't knock that hustle.
I don't know people's rates, but yeah, I just, it's like everybody too, you know, like it's like I'm just worried, you know, I'm gonna see somebody like I know like posting about their OnlyFans, and I'm gonna be like, I'm embarrassed. Like my sister or something, I'd be like, oh no, please just stop. But
yeah, that's a rough way to think about it.
All over the internet. Well, I guess if people are comfortable with themselves, like I guess it's not a big deal. But like,
you're like writing, that's somebody's sister.
Like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Still. All right, well, whatever. And I guess Dennis said like maybe he'd pop in later, which is cool. Jim, have you ever met? Is this your first time meeting Angela?
Yeah, I think this is our first time really talking.
Maybe my memory is fucking terrible. So
yeah, maybe at one of the conventions though. Yeah, there was many nights just hanging out around the bars afterwards.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess we'll get official here. Start talking. So episode 2, we made it. We did it. We're here. This is amazing. How's the sound? Is my quality okay? Everything good? Yeah,
sounds good, man.
All right. Because my rig is going to change every time we do this.
Yep.
So my initial thought of having a guest on the show, my first guest would be perfect, just because of what he's been doing in the community during the time that we're kind of away from work. And I know for personally myself, a lot of my motivation is just kind of depleted. I'm having a hard time drawing, coming up with stuff to do. And mental health, we talked about that last episode, and we talked about it personally before. Mental health is kind of difficult right now, especially with people that have mental health issues such as myself. Not being able to do the only thing that I really enjoy doing has taken a toll on me. So I haven't really been one to give back and do a lot of things during this time, but luckily there are people that are. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, about what this guest is doing, but not make it all about Corona. So I'd like to talk also about tattooing with him, because I know when I first started tattooing, You know, he was someone that I was constantly in his room, bugging him, asking him questions, probably annoying the shit out of him, amongst other people. So, and that is a good friend of mine, Jim Adams. So if you want to, you know, kick it off and just talk a little bit about yourself, where you tattoo, what you tattoo, anything else, you know, just go for it.
Cool. Yeah, like what Brian said, my name's Jim. I've been tattooing for, God, I don't even know, 8 or 9 years now. I've sort of lost count. I work at Nautilus Tattoo in Newington, Connecticut. I work kind of in a little bit of everything: black and gray, realism, neo-traditional, Japanese, line work, blah, blah, blah. Pretty much, so it's funny you kind of like, you know, touched upon the whole like mental health thing, because a lot of that kind of what I'm doing has been a result of what had happened. So I've actually been on out of work longer than most other tattooers, only because at the beginning of March I was actually in Sweden getting tattooed by
Right.
And
Oh damn.
Yeah, my session actually got canceled 2 days in because Trump had, so I had pretty much had to buy like an emergency flight home the next morning. I was supposed to be there for another like 6 days. We were actually planning on doing like another 3 days on my arm, but it just didn't work out. And then in that time frame, I realized I was like, I need to be quarantined. So by the time that my 2-week quarantine was up, when Connecticut pretty much shut everything.
Was shut down anyways.
So I've been out of work for 2 weeks longer than everybody else. So
damn.
It's funny, the people that I've been talking to, even, you know, outside of the tattooing realm, is everybody went through this like weird period of like, what the fuck do I do? Like, and I went through it. Like I spent like probably close to like a week and a half of like in almost shell shock. Like I just didn't do anything. I didn't get off the couch. Like just a slug. I was literally eating like Oreos every day, like just whatever. And then slowly I kind of started coming out of that whole hole that I was in, you know, just, you know, depression, anxiety, freaking out over everything. And just, you know, the thought of, because I was in, when I flew home, every flight was routed through London. I was there for 8 hours, and every single flight in Europe was going through because I was the one airport that was left open to get people back into the US. And so pretty much I spent the next 2 weeks freaking out over, you know, do I have it? Do I not have it?
Yeah.
So
and there wasn't a lot of information on it then either. So
no.
it was kind of just, you know.
Not at all. And actually, it's because the second day that I was getting tattooed by him, I was walking to a studio and I got stopped actually by a news station, and they had noticed my arm, and they were like, they came up to me like, "You're clearly not Swedish. Like, you don't." Like, yeah, sure. They're like, "We want to actually talk to you about how do you think everything's going?" And you know, if I have no idea if I can even find the interview, but pretty much like my mindset was just like, oh, it's just kind of like the flu. Everything's gonna be fine, because, you know, back then we didn't really know what the fuck was going on. So anyway, so it's just funny now that I'm now talking after the fact of, you know, kind of understanding what's happened, but that's besides the point. So anyway, so I spent like the 2 weeks being miserable, feeling sorry for myself, whatever. And actually I started thinking like, okay, like I need to do some prints to sell or whatever. So I did a quick drawing of that. And I wound up seeing one of my sister's friends from high school on Facebook put a tutorial up on how to make face shields. And before that, I had been seeing people like, oh, you know, you can sew masks, do this. I was like, I don't know, a sewing machine. I took home in 7th grade. I don't even remember how to do any of that stuff. And so when I saw this tutorial, I remember I was like in bed at like 2:30 in the morning, and I like got this like jolt of adrenaline. I was just like, this is the first time in close to 2 weeks that I feel like I can actually do something. Like I felt like cool, like there's a passion there. I was like, I can make face shields. And so pretty much that's where all of my efforts turned into. I stopped taking commissions completely from people, much to some of my clients, you know, chagrin, because I had already agreed to do them. And so pretty much for the next, I don't even know, maybe like 5 or 6 weeks, I have no concept of time passing anymore. I was just selling prints to fund going to the store once a week. I was traveling close to 50-mile radius around Hartford, emptying out all the Home Depots, the Staples, and then going onto like eBay and Amazon to buy the elastic bands. And in that time, I've made, I think I'm up to 2,000 face
Damn.
shields donated
Nice.
so
That's crazy.
far. It's pretty wild.
Did you think that you, I mean, when you first started, would hit a number like that, or did it become
no,
like an addiction almost?
I remember the first like batch of supplies I made 150 of them, and I just remember being like, holy shit, that was horrible. This is so much. Like, this is it. Like, this is how much I'm going to do. And then once I started posting online, like, hey, this is what I'm doing now, the amount of support coming in fueled it to a certain degree, where I was just like, this is like, it became like this like weird drive. Like, I have nothing else to do. I need to do this. Like, it became like an obsession of mine. And it got to working like 14-hour days of just sitting and I was just sitting in front of the TV, but just like literally assembly line, just making these masks over and over and over again. And then I started having like a panic attack where I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually going to be unloading any of these. Like, am I just making this? Like, is this all just like a hoax? Like, are people actually going to need these shields?
Right.
And then all of like, it was mostly like clients of mine that I had tattooed that were in either nursing or elder care facilities started reaching out to me, and they were like, we are literally fucked. Like, please help us. And so
Nice.
that's when I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not just spinning my wheels and just ruining my bank account, and I'm going to have 500 masks just sitting in my house for the next 4 or 5 years or however. So luckily it's been a pretty amazing experience, both good and bad. It's definitely, I think of the best way to describe it. If you lose me, there's a crazy thunderstorm happening outside that just started that rolled in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. It's
Those are
happening to me
scheduled
too.
for all of us through the night, so we'll see.
But yeah, no, it turned into this like just weird drive that I never knew that it would turn into this. I thought it would just be something that I just did just to kind of occupy my time, but it, especially from like the outpouring of people that have like reached out to me being like, hey, my sister works at the hospital that you gave the shields to, you're essentially helping save her life and making sure that she can go home to her family. That stuff has been like, whoa, like, okay, this is more than just me trying to not go bored in quarantine. Like, I feel like it's actually making some type of difference, which has been fucking great.
Well, that's a big reason why I thought you'd be a perfect guest to have on for our first like actual episode of us. We talk to each other every day, just to have someone on who doesn't work with us and from a different point of view. I thought this would be perfect because there's actually a genuine story to tell, especially during this time when a lot of things are just like, all the only thing tattooers are out there doing right now, including myself, is complaining. The government this, the governor said this and this and that, and then you're just here, doing something for the people that are at work who are actually just people trying to save lives and shit like that. So I've talked about it many times. I've talked about it on my Instagram live. And to friends and family as well about what you're doing. And, it's pretty awesome. So, I appreciate it. And I'm sure everyone else in the chat does as well. And everyone that you've donated to. Has it been hard to find places to like, are places hesitant about taking in like handmade equipment?
That's actually, I was actually going to bring that up. For the most part, places have been really, really cool about it. Like for instance, Manchester Hartford Hospital Group, the main desk secretary actually started crying when I brought them in. I brought them 400. But I stopped actually going through all of the hospital designated charity liaisons because more than a couple hospital, contacts that I've been in contact with, pretty much like I would send them out an email and be like, hey, I have these face shields. I have a lot of them. Do you need any? And I'm not going to say the hospital's names or anything like that, but one prominent hospital down in New Haven, the person pretty much told me, no, we're good. We're all set. We don't need any. And then I actually had heard from a nurse that worked at that ER that I had tattooed, and she was like, we don't have anything. So pretty much it comes down to that they were working with contracted suppliers, and they were pretty much being told, you can't take this because you have a contract with us. And then another hospital group, I reached out to them, and pretty much the response I got was, yeah, we can take them, but here are the really specific specifications that we need. Like the plastic needs to be a certain thickness, it has to be food grade, it has to have an anti-fog thing, where, this is supplies I'm buying from Home Depot and Staples. This isn't something that I'm looking to make a profit off. I know, medical grade, but if it's better than nothing,
it's a donation. Yeah, it's if have nothing,
trying to essentially help.
Yeah. So that person, they were pretty much told, you have to submit a prototype, and it needs to get approved. And oh, by the way, I'm not working in the office. It's going to take a couple weeks, if not a couple months, to get approval, and then we'll let you know if we'll take it. And pretty much I said, you know what? There's plenty of hospitals and people that are willing to take it. So I've mostly been kind of going through my own clients or people that have just heard about what I'm doing and just reaching out to me on Instagram. And actually a big subset of donations have actually started to go to elder care facilities, because pretty much they're like at the bottom barrel of the levels of supplies and stuff like that. And one of them in New Britain that I donated to, they had 25 active COVID cases and 6 people that had already died. And pretty much the manager of the facility pretty much said, we don't even have enough masks for our staff right now. So she was like, we will literally take anything. So I'm glad that I'm able to get out what I can make, but I know that, I'm not making enough. But I mean, I'm only one person, so I feel, I'm glad I'm able to make a difference, even if it's in the 2,000 or so people that it's touching right now.
Right.
And it's awesome to have that be local too. Like that's a big, like now that it's going to more local places, that's even cooler, because it's got to be so difficult to get your hands on that stuff in general.
Like I was like, oh, my sister, she's an ER nurse in Washington. Can you send them 100? And I was like, I don't want to be that choosy person, but I mean, I'm thinking globally, but working locally. Like this is stuff to help people around me in a small realm of it, in Connecticut and New England and stuff like that. Yeah, it's been a very interesting trip. And kind of like bring up what like Brian had said about, it just seems like a lot of people are just not wanting to do anything and just want to complain and piss and moan about whatever. And I've tried to steer clear of that as much as possible, because it's not helping anything. It's not helping help.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually, and I heard, an earful of it today, and some discussion about it yesterday. And I don't want to, again, me and Angela talked about this. We don't want to talk about it too much, just because it gets really, kind of controversial, and it gets kind of, opinionated on when, we will be going back to work here in Connecticut. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the discussion that people are having, it's just, it's like people are getting ready to riot, and it's like, you know what? I mean, there's plenty of other people that aren't tattooers that are kind of in the same boat. People whose, occupations and trades, the government really doesn't understand. They don't know that, how, safe we can be. And they don't really understand how regulated, we are, what we really do. So yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't really do much of anything. But I have heard some good things within the past couple of days about, because of the organization like CAP, that they're actually hearing us, which is good. And they are interested in what we have to say, which is positive. But I do think this is a whole different kind of story, though. I think it's something that's, instead of sitting around and, complaining or getting the torches and pitchforks out, to do something while inevitably you can't do anything, like storming around and sending emails all day. It won't get us anywhere in the long run. We'd like to hope maybe it might speed things up a little bit. But for now, like, I'm still doing the same thing every day. I'm sitting around, I'm on the computer, I'm waiting, I'm hoping, and I think this was just cool. I think this was just something that, people needed to hear, whether it's 10 people hear it or, 100. I think it was just something that people needed to know, and maybe take an example from, so I hate to, if people start biting on you, and then start, it's only for the better,
I got hit up by a couple other tattooers. They're like, hey, can I get screenshots of that tutorial? Which for a brief second, I was like, oh, they might steal my thunder. But I was like, it's not fucking about me. It's not like,
yeah.
No, it's true.
It's hard to stay positive in what the hell is going on right now in between just in the world and just the fact that we're unemployed right now. Like it's really difficult to find like the positive in all of this. At least this, like what I've been doing with the field and stuff is just it's occupied my time, so I'm not lying on the couch watching hours and hours of like YouTube videos, like eating Oreos and doing absolutely nothing else with my time.
Right.
When you have that much time on your hands, you kind of have to keep yourself busy. At least you're doing something to help everybody out along this whole situation that we're all going through.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure all you guys can kind of like pretty much feel the same way. It's just like as tattooers, you're pretty much working on their actual doing or going home and checking emails or doing drawings or commissions or doing orders or anything like that. And now once all that's pretty much been the rug's been taken out under you, like what do you do? Like I have had this like conundrum where I'm like, dude, I've been working since I moved to Connecticut, like 5-6 days a week, if not 7 days a week. Like what do I do? Like I don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah,
like this like lost puppy where just like
yeah, it for me, like and I tell people this too, there's people that are out of work right now and they're collecting unemployment. Some people are collecting more unemployment than their job actually paid them. And they're just treating it like a vacation. And what they're upset about is that they can't go out and see their friends and party and do the things that they normally do. Whereas, I'm upset that I can't go back to work. But what work is to me and to a lot of other tattooers is more of like, a lifestyle. It's more of a something that I do to feel good about myself, to make other people feel good. And the money is just like a bonus. It really is. Like, it's cool that we can do something that, is so like magical and like the corniest way to say it, and like make a living doing it. And of course, like I'm a newer tattooer, a few years in. So maybe, I've heard, over time, things kind of change and things become more of a job. But I'd like to hope that, I'd still have that like sense of like, how fucking cool it is. So like, I don't know what to do with myself, not because I can't work, but because I can't do the only thing that I've ever like focused on and like tried, so like I'm sitting here trying to play a video game, and I'm just like, I'm bored out of my mind. Like, I'm like, this game sucks. Like, I've played it for like 1,000 hours, like, and it's just so bad because I don't have anything else to put in between it. I don't have my job and the tattooing to put in between it. So it's more than just losing my job. It's losing my whole, what I know, and that's, it sucks. But I think when we get back, it's going to be, it's going to be awesome. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to get tattooed, and it's going to make the tattoos better. I think people are just going to like really just kind of, you know, hit it off. And so
I'm excited to get back. I feel like at the same time I have some fears about going back, and I know what the demand is like for tattooing right now, and how much we're going to be in demand, and then what are we going to do with endurance, like when you're not used to that.
We're
like
just gonna plow
takes
through it like
a
we
while
should.
getting in. Yeah, I mean, it'll be something that we carry in our backs and necks and shoulders, but obviously, like, I feel like it always has that level of exhaustion that comes with try hard tattooing.
But it's good exhaustion. So it's not like this sucks and we're doing this over and over again. It's anytime I've ever actually worked late and come home and I'm exhausted, and as much as I hate that I come home late and I don't get a chance to spend time with my family, I'm happy because of the fact that I feel like I accomplished something that day.
Yeah.
You know,
I fear like not having the gas at the end of the night when you're usually like that's the routine, so it's fine. And then those last 2 hours, instead like of being efficient, now you're like fading, and you got to tell the client like, yeah, I mean, let's call it. Like tapping on a tattoo is not something that I really go for on my end, so that'll be intriguing.
My biggest thing is, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but do you think that it's going to be like high demand, or do you think it's going to be a slow start to get to that point?
I mean, I'm still booking people, and I have 0 cancellations. And the demand is like people are on fire, and as far as I've seen, all my clients have been so great. All the clients for the shop have been so great to just understand, and every time it needs to get pushed back, they're just still staying positive and wishing well. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about you, Jim? What's your experience so far on that?
Mostly everyone's been really, really just like, hey, you know, we totally understand, because pretty much I've just been kind of contacting each week's appointments, just sending them a text, be like, hey, we're still closed. Like, I personally haven't been rebooking anybody yet, just because it's so up in the air. Like, I just don't want the hassle of like, okay, like how about this day? And then when that day comes, like I don't want to keep doing that. And now I'm starting to get a lot of people who are hitting me up and be like, hey, like, can I get an appointment with you? And I have to explain to them like, hey, like before the shutdown happened, I had 4 months of appointments booked, and all these people are now gonna take precedence. So unfortunately, like I can't take any new customers. Like they're gonna get the first spot. So it could be 3-4 months out, because we're now what is it, 2.5-3 months into this type of thing.
Yeah, I think almost 3, right? We're closing on 3.
Yeah.
Or no, it just passed 2, right? March, April,
I've been
May.
out for 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months.
Okay.
2 months.
Okay. Yeah,
2.5.
It feels like longer though. Like it really has that effect, like you were saying. Like it gets to the point, if you don't keep those iconic things that like stick your day, like, oh, that was Monday that I did this, and then have it like it can really become a blur fast.
Yeah.
I think we've all gone through those like ups and downs of the corona quarantine cabin fever.
I thought about doing this like when I first was on like the travel quarantine back in the beginning of March. I was like, I should start like a journal of like jotting down like what my
For sure.
Like, I don't remember anything. Like it literally feels like the last time I was actually tattooing, or when I was in Sweden getting tattooed, it feels like it was like 6 months to a year ago at this point, when I'm just like, oh, that was only like 2-3 months ago, and it's like I have no concept of what time is happening anymore.
Yeah.
It's really nice to get into like the rhythm of like, okay, cool. Like on Tuesdays I start work, and then having like a set regimen of like, okay, Wednesday I'm doing this, Thursday I'm doing that, blah, blah, where instead of just like, what am I gonna do today? Do I be productive, or do I just take a really long walk around the neighborhood? So it would be nice to kind of get back into a semblance of normalcy, whether or not tattooing is going to be normal per se, like as far as like what protocols are going to be put in place or anything like that. But I mean, that could be a whole podcast in itself, speculating about what's going to happen.
Yeah, we've done a little bit of that. Some light discussion on like what our plans are. But there's definitely ways to go far and beyond that.
No, I mean, I have a pretty good idea of what, things are going to look like and what, even people are going to look like, kind of just taking extra precautions. And it really, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think that they're not going to come up with some sort of like magic cure for this, anytime soon. And people are just inevitably going to have to go back to work, and we're just going to go back and live a normal life knowing that you could potentially get sick. But that's how it is with all these other diseases. And you could get the flu, you could get whatever it is that's around, but now we're just adding one more, so I think eventually things are just, because I see how lenient people are just getting and becoming because they didn't get sick, or people they know didn't get sick. And there's just, I mean, I drove around a lot today doing some errands, and there's just a lot of people out there just doing anything, and in big groups, like huge groups, and they've got masks on, but they're like hanging off their face so they can talk. Like, I'm like, that's not the point of the mask, but like, as long as people can hear you, what you got to say, I guess but people just, they don't want to live like this. That's the thing. Like, they're willing to risk getting sick to just continue to live the way they were living, because I mean, why not, I guess. But
I mean, that kind of greed could have some serious economic ramifications. Like, that's what the risk of it all is like come down hard as far as like, if it just takes too long.
You have to be considerate of others as well, just because you want to, be a little more careless and live free or die kind of mentality. You don't want to hurt somebody that's trying to be really safe because they live with somebody who is immunocompromised or something like that. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to shout for your rights, and then all of a sudden you got someone sick that was trying really hard not to.
But people don't think that way. Like, unfortunately, like, they don't understand the risks that are involved in this situation and who that they're risking. As long as it's not them or their family, they don't really care.
And
go ahead.
I think a lot of my own trepidations is the fact that I've been in a lot of contact with the people that are receiving these donations, whether it's ICU nurses, ER nurses, elder care people. So I mean, I get the stories from like what the fuck is actually happening. But on the other hand, like, I have some really close friends that have lost their parents from this, grandparents. Like, thankfully, no one in my immediate family has been affected by it, but I have enough friends who have lost people from this where, like, I know the severity of it. And like, my parents are both elderly. I drive up to Mass once a week to do their grocery shopping, and if it's to the point where if I got it, statistically, like, I'm a healthy man, but I could be fine. But like, if I gave this to my parents and one of them or both of them died, like, I could not live with myself in that ramification. And my partner too, he has he has diabetes. He's had like a heart attack in the past, so I mean, he's at risk too. So I have a lot more riding on my own safety because of the people that are important to me. Where sometimes if you're lucky enough to not have anybody affected by this, then that's awesome, but it shouldn't be taken lightly where you're just going out to the local Walmart. Like, Walmart is probably the most terrifying store to go into.
It is.
Talk about PPE or anything like that. So I mean, that's kind of like my standpoint. Is like, I've seen the ugliness of it, so that's why I'm really trepidatious to move forward about my own safety, because I don't want to affect the other people that are going to get cream corn by this.
Yeah, I'm very paranoid about like bacteria and things like that in general, and then working in the tattoo industry, you kind of have to be anyway about cross contamination. And then when you really understand it on a daily work basis and you're so serious about it, and then this happens, but you fully understand what everybody's doing and how risky it is, like, going into these stores can be terrifying. Like, that is a horror movie for me. I'm so glad that these apps exist and there's people on the hustle where I can Instacart this shit. because like I'm not trying, and I don't have anyone elderly living with me. I'm not even contacting with most people, but like I have my children, and that's more than enough, even though like young people are much less at risk.
Yeah.
So for now, but who knows what the real truth is. So it's just like stay cautious, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, get those sentiments. I totally understand it becoming like a rights issue, and having people, I mean, should be kind of liable for their own risks. So, you know, everyone's got to gauge where they're at, and the government should be willing to help out those that are at most risk. Like if you have a risk issue and you have to stay home longer, say even if they did open up and you don't want to go back to work, I don't know if you should necessarily have to or be able to easily get cut off of the unemployment and federal assistance and things like that too.
True. Makes sense.
I'm not sure exactly how it'll go down, but
well, I believe as far as you know, the unemployment, it depends on like I guess the unemployment that you're getting, because a lot of tattooers are getting, you know, the you know, private contractor you know, unemployment, and some are getting, you know, unemployment as employees of their tattoo studios. And I've heard different things about, you know, when it may be cut off, when it ends, and stuff like that. And a lot of people are worried that the unemployment that we are getting is going to end before the phase begins
that'd be
tattooing
rough.
is in.
Yeah.
But I've also heard that if it doesn't, and if the tattooing starts before the unemployment ends, that you're going to have the choice of whether or not you want to return to work, or if you don't find it safe, that you can stay home and continue to collect unemployment, even though tattooing was released in that phase. So there are going to be options, I guess, if tattooing is open before unemployment ends.
Well, I mean,
and by ends, I don't know. Like that's just what they're saying, you know. So
unemployment is supposed to at least last 26 weeks. That's 6 months. Regardless of the situation, unemployment is still unemployment. Prior to this, when I had other jobs, I did collect unemployment. It was the same concept. But from what I was reading before I actually filed, when they request that you do file, regardless, you have 26 weeks of unemployment before they actually decide to actually call it quits on that. And even by that point, they might have to extend it anyway because of this incident.
Yeah,
it's not our fault that we're not working.
They're already talking end of December. They extended it just recently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in order to do that, I mean, it's like you can't just tell people, you can't force people not to work and then, you know, take away the benefits, you know, that are able to, you know, that we're able to receive, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's just, I mean, eventually, you know, to kind of on a ending note, you know, I feel like I think this will clear up a little sooner than maybe we are anticipating. Maybe not from like the governor himself, but just from us as people, kind of just doing it anyways. A lot of people out there in these different states, you know, they're telling them that they're a part of like one of the phases, and then last minute they're taking them away. And a lot of these tattooers are just saying, you know, it's business as usual. You know, my clients, you know, come on down, you know, as eventually, what are you going to do? You know, like we can't get in trouble. We can't get arrested, you know, like it's like a weird, like purgatory that we're in. Like this, like you're not supposed to do something, but technically there's nothing saying that you can't, but there's somebody that is, but also you can. So like,
yeah.
And we're all just kind of like stuck in our house. Like, which one do we do? You know, and you know, the people that are getting in trouble, they're going to court and then they're waiving it and they're saying, oh, you can't be in trouble for this because there's nothing that says that you can.
Are you talking about like tattooing being open when you're not working, or just
like people are
even just running a business?
Okay.
Hairdressers have been, you know, opened up and have been, you know, brought to, you know, they go to court and everything goes away because there's nothing saying that they legally can't do that. But what they're doing now is they're saying, okay, well, fine, yeah, like there's nothing legal about there's nothing illegal about running your business and doing what you're doing, but we're going to start pulling licensing. So So now they're going to trap these hairdressers and people that are doing things and tattooers, and they're going to pull our licenses if we get caught. So like they're finding like loopholes to keep us out of the shops, and it's just not gonna last. I just don't think it's gonna work
Send
out.
the money right back underground.
If we're in phase
it's gonna be
4,
right back to the way it was in the 90s.
In phase 4 is at the end of the year. Like nobody's gonna wait till the end of the year. 85% of tattooers in Connecticut right now are tattooing. That's just whether they want to admit it or not, like, and I've talked to tons of them, and they're just like, yeah, fuck it, and it's like, I'm right there with you, but at the same time, it's like there is liability, and it is kind of scary too. Like I don't care about losing my license. I haven't even,
Yeah, however, they're never coming to check, and we already know that, right?
I just don't want to. Don't want to get anybody else in trouble. I just don't want any bullshit. Like I just don't want any problems that aren't actually problems, but they're just inconveniences. I just rather wait.
Yeah, I think the time is up soon. I think federally, hopefully they'll call it, or we'll get lucky and shit will just change.
So, kind of gearing away from Corona, because like I think that can kind of be a very consumable topic. Inevitably, we can, we got, Jim here. We can, last episode we kind of did a little bit of our backgrounds on, how we got into tattooing. Random things like inspirations, what's keeping you tattooing, what got you into tattooing, etc. So if you want to take the floor and just kind of give us a little background, that'd be cool.
So I got introduced to tattoos. I remember I was an oops baby in my family, so my sisters are much older than me. And when I was 5, my sister graduated from high school, and when she graduated, she got a tattoo of like a calla lily, and that was the first one I ever saw, and it fucking blew my mind. And I kind of always got obsessed with it ever since then. And as when I was old enough to do it, because my parents would never sign for me, and I had enough money, I was just scraping by to do like little sessions on like a big piece on my calf. So I've always just been into tattooing, but it wasn't until I saw a back piece on my boss stretch from Joe Capobianco that was done probably like 15 to 20 years ago, and it blew my fucking mind. I had never seen anything like it, and I never knew that you could do what Joe did on the back as as art. And that really like kind of like changed the gears of like, okay, I'm just gonna get little tattoos too. I'm gonna like, I want a bodysuit, like I want a full cohesive scene. So that was sort of like the first like, okay, cool, like this is more than just just little bangers and stuff like that. And I was in college at UMass Lowell for English, and I didn't really have any idea what the fuck I was gonna do with my life. And I
was like all of us.
Exactly, yeah. Literally no idea. Like I was like looking into going into like car audio installation and stuff like that. And my senior year, it just so happened that I took a free elective. It was a figure drawing course of just drawing naked. And so that kind of like, kind of got me into like, art, like not just more just like getting high and doodling in my notebook in class type of thing. And I met a tattooer. He was apprenticing. His name is Alex Nadeau. He has a private studio in Hartford now. And I became friends with him through MySpace way back, like 2006. And he was just beginning his apprenticeship. And he was like, hey, do you want to come down? I need guinea pigs. So, being a broke college student, I wanted to get tattooed. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll drive down to Connecticut from Mass. And around that same time, a lot of my friends started dying from overdoses just because, New England was rife with heroin addiction and stuff like that. So I was down there a lot, getting a lot of memorial tattoos. And so I became friends with him, and then I became friends with his mentor at the time, which was Stretch, who turned out to be my mentor. And around the time that I was graduating, he was in the beginning stages of trying to open up Nautilus. And he knew I had no plan of doing anything with my English degree. He was like, hey, do you want to move down to Connecticut and be the shop manager? And it was just literally just by happenstance. It was the first opportunity to get out of my hometown, like every like emo song that exists.
Nice.
And I took it, and I pretty much moved down and I started working at Nautilus as the counter person, and I didn't really do much with it. And somebody a couple months in was working on some Flash, and I walked in. I was like, "What are you doing?" You know, I knew Flash, but I didn't like realize that it was like liquid, like watercolor, acrylics, or anything like that. I was like, "Can you show me how to do that?" And so I went out and bought a whole set of like, you know, Dr. P.H. Martins and, you know, concentrates and stuff like that. And just for the next like 5 years, just, it wasn't because I wanted to become a tattooer. It was just, it was the first thing in my life that I actually was severely passionate about. Like I would just draw and paint at the shop every day, and I'd go home. I had a studio apartment. I would literally just draw and paint just because it was the one thing, the first thing in my life that I've actually ever been passionate about. And I remember finding a Tumblr page that is now defunct. It was called Spit Shade, and it was just a feature of a lot of like kind of neo-traditional, you know, tattooers. It wasn't their tattoos, it was their paintings. And I was like, oh shit, like I can't fucking, I don't know anything about tattooing. I'm just like, you know, counter guy, but they're doing stuff that I like. So I started emulating kind of like the neo-traditional like type stuff, like Uncle Alan. I remember finding out about him, and like literally my mind just exploded. I was like, I never knew that you could do that. Like I never knew that you could draw a rose in a tattoo style that wasn't just flat. Like you could have dimension to it. And so I started kind of like, you know, just delving into like the more neo-traditional side of tattooing and stuff like that. And so for years I was just drawing and painting. I never thought in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm gonna become a tattooer. It's just like, this is just fun. This is just something that I really, really like. And because I was the only counter person at the time, I was working there 6 days a week and then working part-time at Stop and Shop for health insurance. So I was working 7 days a week. My customer, or not my customers, customers at the shop would clearly see me working on shit, and they knew that I wasn't a tattooer. So they started being like, hey, could you draw me whatever, you know, and I'll have somebody at the shop tattoo it. And so I then started designing tattoos for people. And then quickly, like, you know, Strat, she was like, you know, you're obviously, you know, and people like your stuff. Let's take you out of the middleman position and get you into like the back, you know, the driver's seat. And at the time I was like, dude, I'm not an artist.
Nice.
Like, fucking, I can't do anything. Like, I'm never going to be a tattooer. Like, this is stupid. This is just a fun hobby I do. So I fought it for probably like 6 to 9 months. And then finally, like, my mom was like, dude, what are you doing with your life? Like, you can't run the counter of a tattoo shop forever. Like, you got to figure out what you're doing. And so then I was like, you know what? Let's fucking do it. Like, what else do I have to do with my life? And I'm really glad I did, because, you know, I spent a lot of nights crying trying to figure out my apprenticeship, but, you know, as probably with a lot of people did. But I mean, it's been a fucking wild ride. I love it. I mean, it sounds super cliche because I heard a lot of people, tattooers, saying stuff like, oh, you get into it you get out of tattooing what you put into it. And I was just like, that's such a weird statement, but I'm far enough into my career where, you know, I'm booking out for months at a time, and I'm like, holy shit, like, it's really true. Like, I get to travel, I get to do guest spots, I get to meet, you know, some of my, you know, best friends in the world are tattooers that I've been tattooed by. I mean, I got to go to Sweden to get tattooed. I never thought in a million years I'd be getting tattooed by, you know, somebody of, you know, Johan's, you know, level. It's fucking mind blowing. And, you know, would I do it again? Probably, but I would definitely warn myself, like, it's gonna be hard road to go down. But I mean, it's not easy now. It's never gonna be easy. And I hope I never get to the point where I'm complacent with it. I should always sort of be nervous and be stressed out about it, because I feel like once I'm not in that mindset, I'm not gonna be pushing myself. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
For sure.
no, I've felt the same way. And like, you know, I'm a very, you know, anxious person already, and like anybody that's ever worked with me in tattooing has like knows how difficult it can sometimes be to work next to me. And you know, just from either just having anxiety about life, or, you know, dealing with, you know, my health anxiety and stuff like that. But I mean, I remember, you know, when I first started tattooing, I was working at Pelican, and I didn't know how to tattoo. And I would just be like, yeah, I do tattoos. And then I go to Pelican, and I would, the people I was like, you know, trying to impress, telling them I was a tattooer, I was like, I hope they don't come in here because I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I was like, I really like, oh yeah, I'm a tattooer, but you know, whatever. Yeah, but so, and then even when I started working at the Edge, you know, and talking with Steve, like I can't tell you how many times, you know, I was in the back room, like I'm just crumpling things up, and like, and I can draw like the infinity loop right, and you got someone waiting on the couch, and I'm losing my absolute mind, you know, and like just losing it. And then, but at the end of the day, like that's my favorite thing to do. That's like what I love to do. But I was so stressed and so like insecure about my artwork, insecure about whether or not I was going to do a good job, insecure about like just me as like a fucking person. And like, I was just like losing it. And then once it was all said and done and the client walks out, you know, all bandaged, I'm like, cool, you know, like I did it, you know, and I'm like, I got a good job, you know. And then the next day it's back to, I got 45 minutes till they get here, and I'm crumpling things up and I'm throwing things. So like, I don't think I want to lose that though. I don't want to lose, you know, that it's like exhilarating almost, you know. I don't want to lose that part of it, you know. I don't want to be like, yeah, I'm so good at this that this is just so fucking easy, and and everyone's just gonna see it in my face that it's so easy, you know. I want there to be some sort of like, I don't know, mystery to it or something. But
craving that try hard feeling.
I don't know. I don't want it to be like like I'm struggling for the rest of my life, you know, like pretending to do something that I'm not supposed to do, you know. Like I know like my skill level in tattooing, and I'm fairly certain that I'm only going to get better at it the more I work at it. But I don't want to get to a point where I'm just like comfortable, you know. Like I want to always be trying to do better, and you know.
I might have to take a second away and go check on my son. So
you're good.
You're back.
But Jim was definitely one of the people that I had met early on, and definitely spent a lot of time in his room talking to him. And I remember taking drives out to Nautilus. I used to take drives out to, you know, Hartford County and talk to just random tattooers that I met that became friends of mine and really kind of pushed me in the right direction. So that's another reason why I wanted to have Jim on the show, was because he was also kind of like, we didn't talk about much about like my tattooing inspirations, but he's always been you know, an inspiration to me in tattooing, because I looked at more local artists than I did like famous artists. When I got into tattooing, I wasn't really impressed by people like Guy Atchison or people like that. Like, as much as I knew they were like these like top tier tattooers, and like I, you know, found out about them, I wasn't as interested because I couldn't meet them. Like I couldn't talk to them, you know.
Yeah.
And I also knew they were on this different level that if I ever could, they're not going to give me the answers that I would really think that like a normal person would want to give, you know. So people like Jim, meeting people that work at tattoo shops down the road, you know, I feel like had more of an honest point of view, because they were more of a working class tattooer. And then I would also look at their artwork and be like, this is really cool. Like, this is what I want to do. I want to do stuff like this. And this is just, you know, and he's just a normal guy, you know, versus looking at all these artists like, I'll never meet them. And they have like 1 million Instagram followers. And I'm like, they don't live like normal people, you know. Like Mike Chambers is out, you know, traveling the world and you know, having meals in Paris during a pandemic. You know, it's just like one of those things where it's just like, I can't relate to that, you know. Like, so I always thought that, you know, meeting people on more of a local level and having more of a influences on the local level helped me more in my upbringing in tattooing.
Yeah.
So Jim was a big part of that.
I can understand that, but I mean, like, before I was even tattooing, when I was still kind of in just like the fuck around drawing stage of it, there's really not like the style that I was really drawn to. Like, it's few and far between the artists that do it and then do it like well. So I pretty much just like I never really reached out to anybody. So, you know, I was looking at people in, you know, Australia, New Zealand, for some reason that those two places are like super hotspots for like neo-traditional type stuff.
Yeah.
But and then even you know, a guy that I really looked up to, his name's Oren Hurley. I met him at one of the Paradise Tattoo gatherings back in 2008 or 9. And I remember
Nice.
I watched the stuff on Tattoo Now, if you guys remember Tattoo Now at all. But I
Oh
was
yeah.
just like, I love this dude's work. And I had actually, in my back piece, had won best back piece. And I remember he came up to me at the bar, and I never met him before. And he just walked up to me. He's like, "You're the guy that has the big dick on its back." And I was just like, dude, like, he is my best friend. Like, I talk to him more than I talk to any other person in my life. Like, he's done most of my bodysuit. But as much as the closest I've ever been to him, he was the most realist with me when it came down to tattooing. Like, I remember, in my apprenticeship, I would put a tattoo up online on Instagram, and I knew that the text message was coming, where it was just like a pissed off like girlfriend, or just, why the fuck did you do this? This is fucking horrible. And it was years before he would give me any type of just positive feedback. It was always just like, dude, do better. Like, you're fucking up. And as much as I hated it, and as much as it, like, he would just make me fucking cry thinking about it, like, it helped me. Like, I needed to be put in my fucking place because I didn't know anything else. And it was good because, like, of course, like, when you start tattooing, or when you're, new to tattooing, like, all your friends are just gonna yes you. They're like, "Oh, dude, this is dope. Like, yeah, do whatever. Like, do the Slipknot logo. I don't care."
Yeah.
So it was good to have somebody that I looked up to and like respected on such a level of tattooing, where he's like, "Dude, you're dog shit." And I'm like, "Ouch!" But
Yeah.
like, I need that. Like, I needed that to kind of just put me in my place. So luckily now he doesn't do that shit to me. So
Yeah, honesty is always highly respected, and it is hard to come by. Like, most of the time you can read into the truth, whether it's one thing or another, but there's all the memes about what the comments really mean when they're like the typical boom, this is like a typical response comment. So that, it's always nice to get honest criticism. That's invaluable right there, outside of yourself.
Like, if you're just like, constructive criticism is great, but if you're just like, that looks like shit, but you're not offering anything to improve it, it's not.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's that's no good. Then you're just being an asshole, right? Like, that's just that little line.
Well, I think as much as my influence has been like on a local level, I don't think it was because like I was like, oh, these guys, I can talk to them all the time, and they'll just become friends, and then they're gonna like, they're just gonna say my work is good, and then gonna move on. I think in the beginning, like, you were extremely honest with me about not only like how my work looked, but just like, I think you were careful about it. I think you were careful about like what you said and like how you went about it, because like you were in no way like a mentor, but like I would ask a fuck ton of questions.
No, still, I mean, even to this day, like, I'm still new to tattooing in the grand scheme of it. So like, even back when I first met you and you were just starting the apprenticeship, like, I was in no position to be like, yeah, like, this is what you should be doing instead. Because I mean, I didn't know fucking idea what the fuck I was doing. Like, I just learned type of thing. So it's a fine tightrope to offer advice if you don't fully know the advice to give.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also like a criticism thing, because it's like, because me looking at your work back then, like me now wants to do work like that, like, so it's I think, I mean, as a critic of yourself, you're like, oh, I'm in no position to give advice, but you could very well be tattooing better than tattooers that have been tattooing 20 years, but you just feel like it's not your place to kind of give advice. But I think you went about it in a way where like you knew that. And I think I knew that too, that you didn't feel totally always comfortable, maybe, answering everything, or even just talking about tattooing in general sometimes. But I think you went about it in a way where it was just like, I picked up what I wanted to learn, in a good way. Like, not like, it wasn't just like, hey, what do you think about this tattoo? And you're like, oh, that's a great tattoo, because it probably wasn't. but I never really asked you like, hey, what do you think about my tattoo? It was more just like questions about tattooing in general. Like, oh, hey, do you always do this? Like, what do you prefer for this? Like, blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, you know, here's this needle by Black Claw. And then I took it to my shop and I used it. And then I ordered a box because it was good, you know, but like, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like, I don't think like I would ever meet like Russ Abbott and he would hand me a needle and be like, use this, you know, and then like bring it home and then be like, oh, thank you, Russ. Like, that was so awesome. But like, I learned a lot of the equipment I use, a lot of the things I use is because of just like going and like looking at people's like rooms and asking like what they use. And like, I saw a tattoo that they did. So I'm like, what did you use for? Oh, I only use, you know, this needle or that pigment or this, I love this color or whatever. And I just accumulated all these things. Like, I just bit off like everyone I met. Like, I would watch a tattoo and I'd be like, I really like that blue. And they're like, oh, it's this by this brand. And I would just order it immediately. Like, on my way home, I would just order it, you know? So like, I really think there is an importance to like knowing people on a local level. And it's also important to know them on a local level so that you don't end up like, I don't know, like I don't really want to be like enemies with people, you know, like I don't want to be like someone that, you know, just kind of sits aside and just like talks crap. You know, I'm a very like community driven kind of dude. Like, I'd rather be able to like walk into another tattoo shop and like not get crap, you know?
I mean, like, in the grand scheme of it, tattooing is very small subset of society. I mean, there's really, when you break it down, like, you know, as population as a whole, there's only a fraction of us. Like, there's no need to have these weird divisions inside of an already small group to begin with.
Right. And there is like the amount of shops that I've worked at, the amount of people that I've worked with, like there are bizarre like divides in people, you know, whether or not they think that these artists are good or know what they're doing or whatever, or if it's just like personal drama that kind of gets in the way. Like, it just got like crazy. And I'm just like, I don't understand any of this, like why this needs to be that way or this way, or there's so little of us. So we've all worked at the same shops, you know? So, you know, I go to work somewhere and they're like, oh yeah, you know, that person you're talking about used to work here and we don't like them. And it's just like, oh, come on. Like, what the fuck does this matter? You know? And
I mean, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. That every tattooer has a connection to every other tattooer. Not even just in the wild.
Yeah.
Of, you know, New England, you know, the U.S., the world. Like, we're all connected in, you know, a linear fashion of, you know, somebody knows somebody got tattooed by somebody else, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah, to get to a couple of the points you guys have been talking about, I feel like when you're on the come up early on, everybody has those people that help them out that aren't necessarily their mentor or people that are involved directly with their tattoo education, even if it's from a distance by like friends getting tattooed by them and then you're hanging out one day or you're getting tattooed by them. There's one way or another that you're like running into these people in the industry, and then, you know, sometimes you get some like invaluable pointers from people that, you know, you're not paying, you're not even asking them to do anything, and then you end up with this, you know, kind of cool relationship. And then going further, like especially when someone has more experience, it's a lot easier to accept any, you know, constructive criticism and know that they have reasons that these things are going on, and that you can look at their portfolio to see the value of that.
Exactly. So. Yeah. And then also just getting tattooed by other people too. Like, it's a wealth of knowledge that you can, you know, you can gain from it. I remember like Bryant like hit me up a little while ago, and it was something to the effect of like laying out like sleeves or like large scale pieces and stuff like that. And I don't know how I can figure it out, but I think it came to the fact that I was getting such large scale pieces tattooed on myself. Like, you know, like I have a Baku demon that goes from my armpit down to my kneecap all the way over like my entire torso.
Sick.
And so when you're in the process of getting these large scale pieces, like you learn just through the process of osmosis. Like you even if you're not aware of like what you're picking up, you're like, oh, okay, like that's how you would do that type of thing. So I mean, like there is a wealth of knowledge to be gained just by getting tattooed by people, you know, just in general. Not like, you know, because, you know, there are people that I know that, you know, I only get tattooed by this one person and I have a whole bodysuit from them, cool, or whatever, or, you know, I have a couple pieces, but it's get tattooed by as many people, I feel like is like the best way of, you know, outwardly seeking advice and help, but you just tend to glom onto it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think as a tattooer, you already have that kind of like basic knowledge of tattooing. So like, even if you're getting tattooed by someone to like learn more, you don't even need to ask questions directly because you already know kind of what you're looking at, you know, and then you just sort of just kind of like in your head, it like clicks. You're like, oh, he just did that. And that's, you know, pretty cool. And that's
you're
what I
feeling
did
it too, like feeling that the you know, pressure, depth, you know, certain like things like that to really catch on to what they're doing and how they're executing those certain things, for sure.
Yeah, like it was funny. Like when I was getting tattooed by Johan, he was at one point he was like, "Dude, if you want to ask me any questions, I don't mind." And I just was silent. I was just like, I was just watching everything he did, and like he was like, "You can like, trust me." I was like, "No, like I'm doing enough. Like it's cool." Like
yeah, you're speaking my language already. You know, like you're hearing everything they're doing.
I mean, even just like working at a convention, like just walking around doing rounds, like as a tattoo, you're already tuned to see that. Like you can just pick up little stuff and just like, you know, go into somebody's booth while looking at their portfolio and just be like, you know, just kind of like peeking over. There's an information that you can kind of grasp from what you're seeing. Like, oh, okay, like that's cool, or ooh, like I didn't think of that. But,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
We're in a way it's getting attention as kind of to be able to out little minute without being forced of it.
I mean, I've also noticed that like, I mean, you can learn just by working somewhere, you know, and I've learned most of, you know, what I know through watching other tattooers that I work like directly next to. And, you know, I've worked at different shops where they're not all so like okay with that. And, you know, like working in a shop with like multiple little rooms and like, you know, you'd be walking around like showing people like a piece you just did. And like, everyone's kind of confused as to like why you're like showing them. And I'm just like, oh, I just thought maybe, you know, like you'd want to see. And they're just like, okay. And they're like tattooing someone. They're like, okay, all right. And I'm like, all right, well, never mind. You know, I'm just gonna, you know, leave. And then I would just show like, it ended up me just being, you know, showing my like select 2 friends that I had, you know, at these shops instead of, you know, because I thought, you know, if I showed them tattoos, they would come show me their tattoos, and then we could talk about it. But not a lot of people were into that. But then there's shops where, you know, everybody shows everyone everything, you know, like, and everyone's interested in what you're doing because I'm sure they want to see what you were working on. You know, they're just genuinely interested, but they also want to see like maybe you're doing something that I could do. You know, maybe you did something that I should have thought of, or, you know, should try. You know, so I mean, I learned most of my stuff just by looking at other people's tattoos like that were done right next to me. But I've also learned there's some people just aren't into that. So.
Yeah, Jim, it sounds like you've been like pretty deliberate in coming up with like your tattoos on your body. Like for me, I regard myself like a tattoo collector. I have a solid, you know, collection from people that I've worked with as well as other bigger pieces, but like you get that criticism, or at least I get it. They're like, how many do you, it doesn't seem like you have many tattoos. And it's like, well, you know, some of them are where you can't really see. And then other ones, you know, I'm very deliberate. So I'm waiting for, you know, this amount of time to see this person, you know, when I can afford it. You're going to Sweden for it. And I plan on, you know, making travels as well. People are willing to travel, pay, like there's a lot of expense involved in just getting to the place where you can get the stuff that you want to get. And then, you know, other times you have the opportunity to get something in an area where maybe it's, you know, that would interrupt the bigger piece. So it's like, you know, trying to figure out where to put stickers and where to save and like when to save. You're going to tattoo for 20, 30 years.
I'm gonna cut you off. We're getting some feedback from Dennis's laptop there. Just
okay, hold on. Let me see if I can turn him down.
Can you like mute him?
And not only that, too,
yeah,
like,
hold on.
Like,
Yeah, there we go. Go ahead.
What do I need to remove? Which I've removed a considerable amount of tattoos.
Wow, that'd be cool to hear more about too.
That's fucking horrible. But I mean, like back when I was just getting tattooed, before I, saw that Joe Cap back piece that blew my mind, like it was just like, oh, I'm just gonna get a collection of shit. And after the fact, I was like, oh, okay, like I want a bodysuit. That's when I was like, okay, these pieces are sort of in line with what I want to do, or they're just in the way for something else. So I started going into the route of laser removal, and I lasered off almost all of my caps, and I have one last piece that I was supposed to start lasering last like 2 weeks ago, but that got canceled because of all the quarantine and stuff like that. But yeah, no, like, I mean, Bryant has essentially seen me like almost fully nude, and before I got my arm tattooed, like I had literally a full bodysuit from neck all the way to my toes, like full torso, full legs, like literally everything.
And that was one of the coolest things to tell people about you is like he doesn't look like he has any tattoos. If you're wearing like jeans and a t-shirt, there was like no visible tattoo. No. And then, and then I'd be like, but everything else is almost completely covered.
Yeah.
So now that you have your sleeve going, it's going to look a little different. But like that was always like the
it has that extra wow factor, like that Japanese, kimono style where
it's been a very weird experience, like now having like a full, like, a visible tattoo, where before, I was super incognito. Like if I was wearing shorts or wearing pants, like you would never in a million years guess that I would have close to 600 hours of tattooing on me. So I've been able to kind of like skip underneath the whole, like either, the positive, attention that you get when you go out in public, or the negative of like, the staring and the words and stuff like that. But now with a sleeve, it's weird because now after all this years of getting tattooed, I'm finally experiencing the shit that people have been telling me for years about, like, oh, people grab your arm, or people
being touched.
Yeah.
Existed, but I had no fucking idea before this. Like it's a weird experience, like finally having like a visible tattoo.
So Daryl from Harper County is in the chat and asks, who do you have do your laser?
I was going to Disappearing Ink up in Northampton, Mass. But they weren't the ones that started it. We had a guy about 8 or 9 years ago that his name was Rethink Your Ink. He had the Nick Baxter's Biomech brain tattoo. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But he would come through and do like a tour of the East Coast, and he would stop down at Hope Gallery, he would stop at our shop, and pretty much at the time, he was like, hey, I'm doing this tour. I was just at Last Rites Gallery or whatever, and he's like, what I do is I keep 100% of what I do, but anybody that works there can pretty much get lasered. So at the time, we're all like, well, fuck it. Like if we can get lasered, is there anything that you're not completely satisfied with? Just start lasering it. And like, people at the shop were like, I'm going to do both my sleeves, or I'm going to do my entire leg sleeve. And then halfway through the process, we were all collectively like, this is awful. I don't want to do this, but I can't. All my like there are some people that still to this day like have half faded tattoos where they're just like, it's not dark enough, it's not light enough to cover, but it needs to get laser more, and they're just like, whatever, like it is what it is. But I was one of the ones that was just like, I started this for a reason because I wanted a bodysuit, and I'm going to continue doing this. And it's horrible. It's the worst experience on the planet. I would rather get tattooed for 12 hours in one session.
And I hate getting tattooed. So like I'm just thinking about lasering is like, I don't know. I'm just going to live with whatever I got because is I don't know. Just the noise it makes like freaks me out too.
Yeah, but
It's
I feel
like bacon.
As a tattooer, I feel like every tattooer should at least know what the sensation feels like and what the process is to go through it, because I try not to steer people into the lasering route just because it's a very long process. It's
Right.
very, very painful. But there are some cases where someone's just like, I'm not happy with it, and there's really nothing you can do. So pretty much you will go do. But at least like I can give them firsthand experience of just like, yeah, this is what happened to me. I got almost 25 sessions of laser removal on my legs. Like, it's gonna blister, it's gonna feel awful. But then I still have a couple tattoos that still haven't been covered up, like on one of my calves, and I'll show them like, this is what you can do now. Like, it opens up a whole new realm of tattoo ability, where before I was pretty much like locked into a panther head or like an Oreo or something like that. So I suggest it very lightly to people, but I mean, I'm glad that I had the experience, because now I can talk to people, or either talk them into it or out of it, depending on if they're gonna like take it. But I mean, the place up in Northampton, they're great. They have like a chiller machine that like blows like brutally cold air on it beforehand, so it kind of numbs it. And they're just super, super nice. They've actually been really good about donating money to the Shield cause.
Nice.
Which was super, super, nice of them. But yeah, I think everyone should get laser at least once, just because I'm a little bit of a masochist, and I feel like to carry into the horrific realm of getting laser removal.
On the other side, I can say I'm probably the complete opposite. I'm like, never been lasered. I'll openly tell clients, yeah, get lasered. If you really want that shit gone or covered, let's do at least, some sessions. And then, I don't know. I don't even have any tattoos that I would really laser, I don't think, because I'm so slow and deliberate, and I'm pretty broke as a human. I get aggressive with my finances.
I probably have the most like laserable body with all the tattoos that I have that are like laser worthy. But like I just don't care as much about, I guess, about the tattoos I have, as far as like compared to like the ones I do, like, but with the skin that I have left, like I'm making sure like I'm getting tattooed by, like, it's not like I'm not even the kind of guy that saves like space for like some like day that I get tattooed by this famous guy. It's like, just, I like getting tattooed by my friends and stuff like that, so I'd rather just stop getting bad tattoos and just, I mean, I'm in the industry now, so it's a little hard to get kitchen tattoos, but
So, I mean,
yeah, I have a lot of tattoos where it's like, yeah, I could laser that, but I'm probably not going to.
Like a scenario. So, I mean, I'm bringing this up because it's happened to me, where, say, for instance, like hypothetically, you're getting tattooed by, Joe Schmo, who is proficient in one specific style. You go to him for that style, and you have like, a multiple session piece, and down the line, you want to have him like go back into it and just be like, hey, can you boost the contrast, or just kind of like, it's a little faded, but they've completely switched gears as far as style goes. And they pretty much like, they refuse to work on it because it's not the style that they work in anymore. Are you in the realm of like, no, I'm just gonna keep it the way it is, or would you be okay going to somebody else who works in the previous style that they used to work in to have them work on it? Like,
I would just keep the tattoo the way it is.
Yeah,
I would just let it age and let that be that, because there's a lot of people out there that have my tattoos that I'll never see ever again, just out of like their own, like, for some reason they didn't want to get it touched up, or maybe it didn't need one, or in that amount of years where it would need one, maybe they just don't want to find me. I don't know. Maybe they moved away. I've traveled to and tattooed people that I'll never see again. So it's like, I don't know, tattoos, I think they're just, I'm weird about it. I'm not as much of like a tattoo snob. Like, I'm very much like fuck it, let's do it. Like, sounds fun, like. And then the way it heals, like, I always blame myself more than like the tattooer. Like, I'm just like, oh, that healed like shit. Like, but you did a good job, you know, like I love it, you know, it looks like crap, but I love it, you know. But so it's, I don't know, I don't care as much, I guess.
Yeah.
And like I just like, I have like sentimental like attachments to things, and like I don't care about like the saturation. I just like the fact that like we hung out and did a tattoo and like it was cool, you know. But I don't know, I don't think I would worry about it too much. And then like if I ever got tattooed by a guy that like just straight up changed styles all of a sudden, I'd be like, wow, you're cool, you know, like good, good for you. Like you're totally not even gonna tattoo me anymore because like you changed your style. I don't know. Brian tattooed a BLT on a friend's ass. I doubt he will ever see that one again. Probably not. Yeah, I don't think I'll see the BLT on the butt cheek again. But I remember it, and that was pretty crazy. I remember using like 3 or 4 different greens for the olive, and I was just like sitting there like, why am I trying so hard with this like BLT? There's a BLT in a heart with like the bacon was like probably the most realistic tattoo I've ever done. And like I don't do realism at all, but like I tried really hard. And like someone has a picture of me that they sent me like a couple months ago of me just like stretching and just like staring into this guy's ass, like just tattooing this BLT. And I'm just like, oh man, that's great. So
nice.
I don't know. I guess, I mean, that's the fun of tattooing, I guess, is like people's have different opinions on like what makes a good tattoo, or like how they get tattooed, or, you know, whatever. Like more people are into like the party tat style. And then some people are like, I need to save up my life and get like this like grand piece. And like either way you look at it, like it's gnarly. I don't really care. Like it's cool.
That's cool. There's multiple sort of realms of thought when it comes to like, you know, collecting tattoos, where like, you know, one is just like, hey, how it heals, and then there's other people, probably I'm more in that realm where my chest piece has been done, like has now 2 coats on it. My stomach has 2 coats on it. I'm working on a second back piece of like another coat on it, where I see it looks like I'm going to keep getting tattooed for the rest of my life. And you hear, you know, like, you know, what's that dude, Chris Longo, like the mayor of Tattooville, like he has like essentially 4 bodysuits where he's just kept going and going and going. I have a feeling that's probably where I'm going to be at, where, you know, it's until my health or my ability to get tattooed is hindered, I'm going to keep doing that, which is totally like how you're doing is totally fine too. That's what's cool about tattooing, is because it can be like approached in 2 different spectrums of you know, collectorism.
Yeah. I also just have like a weird like mentality where it's like I'm a tattooer, so like I just get like stupid shit on my face for fun now, and it's like it's a terrible decision. Like it's terrible. It's like I tell people that come to me, they're like, you know, like you got face tattoos, like I want face tattoos, and I'm like, no, like that's so dumb. Like it's like the dumbest thing you could do. But like I don't care, because like I don't feel as bad because of what I do. But if I was like in a different position, I guess, like where if I was just out in the real world again and had to struggle finding work, or maybe go back to school in order to, you know, find a different career, I'd be in a lot of trouble, you know, and I would care a little bit more. So I guess I'm like that, like, I don't know. I still make bad, just because I'm a tattooer doesn't mean I make always good decisions, you know, like I tattooed my face a whole bunch of times for fun because we get bored. Like, that's not good. That's not a good thing to do. But like, I don't care as much, because at the end of the day, like, this is what I get to do, you know? And like, I'm just not worried about how people view me, because after you tell them what you do for a living, they're like, oh, okay, that's why you look like a fucking idiot, you know? And it's just it's just like okay with me, you know? Like I'm just like I've gotten to the point where I'm just like okay with it, you know? And like I don't regret anything. I don't feel like bad. I don't feel like bad for myself, you know, because I, you know, used to get tattooed in kitchens and shit like that. Like I just, as long as the tattoos I'm doing on people are like, I turn a lot of fucking people down for you know, bad ideas or things I don't think people should be doing. So like, as long as like I'm giving my client respect in that way, like I don't care about myself, you know. It's a little hypocritical sometimes, but like kind of not, I don't know. But as long as I'm treating my client well and giving them a nice tattoo somewhere that I know they're not going to regret it, you know, being like a normal person in society, then I'm okay with myself, you know. So
Did you feel like getting your face tattooed either consciously or subconsciously was sort of solidifying yourself in tattooing?
it's a good question, because like obviously I don't want to sound like a fucking hack or like a poser, you know, but like I remember the day when I got my throat tattooed with Jose, and that was it was after I did, because you know that my apprenticeship was kind of like a scam, you know, like it's pretty much a hack. And there was a whole year in between that apprenticeship and till I got into Pelican that I wasn't tattooing. I wasn't. I was trying, and I was hanging out with like Spencer every day, and you know, just doing stupid shit. I was just, you know, painting or drawing or, you know, talking about tattooing or whatever. And I made that appointment with Jose, and I was like, I'm gonna get my whole throat done. And I was working at Jerry's Artorama, and I told everyone I worked with, I was like, I'm getting my throat just covered with like an eagle. And at that time, I already had like my hands outlined and like stupid things on my fingers and stuff like that. So I wasn't like too far off. But like I tell people even to this day, like I got my throat tattooed because I was so sure that that was what I was going to do. Like I was going to become a tattooer. And like I got the throat tattoo not as like like some sort of like validation, like you're a tattooer now, you have to get your throat tattooed, because clearly that's not how it works. But it was like a okay, but now your throat's fucking blasted, so you better make this shit work, because if not, like you just like cut all of your like possibility like in half, like more so. But just, you know, who knows. But yeah, like I don't think the face tattoo, because the face tattoos came way later, but I definitely think the throat tattoo was like, it was like me telling myself like, okay, now you have to do this, you know. Yeah. And is that stupid? Kind of, you know, but like I don't, you know, not everyone thinks the same, you know, not everyone acts the same way, not everyone would do the same thing, you know. Like I could have just as easily told myself like, I don't know, Brian, keep going, like you're gonna make it. But like for some reason I just thought getting my throat tattooed was what I needed to do to like really look at myself in the mirror and be like, crap, this is you're only going to be a tattooer, or you're going to be like a homeless guy.
Yeah.
So but with like a sweet throat tat. So like, but like Jose didn't say anything about it. He was just like, cool. And then like just stuck it on my neck. He's like, that looks good. And I was like, I hope so. And just laid down and did it. So like, I don't know, he didn't say anything about it, you know. But but
Yeah,
it was
there's
also
so
like
many...
me getting a tattoo from someone that I also was like, because Jose was at the same shop. He's at the same shop with Jim, so like I would talk to them both, and like I liked Jose's work as well. I'm very inspired by Jose's work as well. You know, that's where I learned a lot of, you know, traditional things. So like I wanted to get a cool tattoo by him, and like yeah, I didn't really have arm space, so like I had my throat. Then I was gonna have Jim do my stomach, so like I kind of ran out of space to have a nice tattoo, and I didn't want it to be surrounded by like things I wasn't too happy with, you know.
Yeah, there's so many good reasons to get a tattoo. I find it like going further into my career harder and harder to try to criticize somebody's motivation or reasons, as long as they're not like totally inebriated. Obviously, you know, you got to apply ethics, but um everyone's got their like own lives to live, so it's tough
Yeah.
to really put a question on it, because you don't know what that person's going to do, or you know how that person's going to benefit. For me personally, like I've definitely ventured carefully in more of a traditional like inside out kind of way, and then you know I'm still reserving a lot of space for like larger pieces, but I still have interest in extremely public tattoos before that, otherwise, as long as they are done right and are in the right time frame, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, in my opinions on the tattoos I get is just so far from like my opinions on the tattoos my clients should get. You know, like I'm super strict with stuff like that. Like no hands, no neck, no faces. You know, for a while, like for a long time, like I didn't do any of that because I just felt like people shouldn't get them at all. You know, but now it's like more, you know, a lot of young people want their face tattoos and their necks and their hands, and they don't have like bodysuits, you know, like, oh, I just have my hands left, you know, I'm ready to do my hands. It's just, I don't have any tattoos. I wanted my hand, you know. So like, and there's too many tattooers out there that are just so quick to be like, cool, it's money. But it's like, you look at someone like me, and a lot of people come to me and think like, oh, this guy will do it, you know, he's got some silly shit, and I'm just like, absolutely not. Like, I would never do that to you. But why did I, you know, and this is where it gets like confusing for myself sometimes talking about it, because it's like, why did I do it to myself? But I won't do it to like a stranger. But I did it to like someone I know like very well, because I am them, you know. Like,
I mean, if you were going to debate it, right, you'd be crushed. But I don't think you have to debate it, because you're the one that has to live with it in the end of the day. So it's like, whatever your standards are to your profession and where you're comfortable, I think is fine. If people are getting good tattoos in public areas and it's the first one that they get, then fuck it. You know, there's such a trend for different ones that are obviously like smaller, minimalist micro tattoos. That's like, you have a fucking chair on your face or something, but it's all inside of a square centimeter. So it's like that, and that's your only tat, but you paid $800 for someone to do it. That's a fine line master in New York City. You know, it's like, who knows? There's so many niche markets, and then, you know, for me at least, it's tough to debate. But at the same time, you know, there would be projects, you know, that I would probably turn down, depending on usually the age of the person. I think is more significant to me. Like, I'm not trying to do public tattoos on someone who can't legally sign for themselves or things like that.
Right. Yeah. So Jim, as far as like what you do and do not tattoo, where do you stand?
I kind of have the more kind of idea of like, I'm not going to do your hand unless you have a full sleeve type of thing. And I'll kind of sort of like talk to people where, you know, like I've been asked, you know, by, you know, some kid that literally looks like he's like, you know, fresh off, you know, his 16th birthday or whatever. And he's like, oh, I want to do my fingers for my first tattoo, or my hand. And I'm just like, okay, like, you know, what do you do for work? And they're just like, well, I don't work. I go to high school.
I'm gonna landscape with my dad forever.
And like, I take a much more like, no, like, you shouldn't do this. Like, it's not like, I know, you know, it's potentially turning away work, but I mean, I wouldn't sleep at night knowing that I could potentially like fuck this person's life up.
No, yeah.
Because, you know, like, you know, but, you know, say for instance, like, you know, it's like a 30-something-year-old, and there's like, yeah, like, totally want to get my hand done, or I want to do the side of my neck. Like, then I'm going to be a little bit more like, okay, like, we can entertain the thought, we can talk about it. But when it's like such young kids, like, I feel like it's too damning personally. But I mean, like, you know, we're the masters of our own destiny. Like, if you have it in your head that you want to do it, you're gonna fucking find somebody to do it.
Yeah, you know, when they come in and they're gonna get it by you or the guy at somebody's house. I feel like that definitely affects my decision making. You know, like, I have these kids come in and it's like, either I can do it or I know somebody else that's gonna do it, because they are not stopping. Some people, you can talk to them. They came in with mom or dad or whatever, and you got to be like, you know, you shouldn't put this shit on your wrist. Let's put it somewhere above the elbow or something like that until you can sign for yourself and have a career or something. But you know, if it's a hand or something on someone who can legally sign for themselves, you always have to make those calls.
And like, I think the last like hand that I turned down, it was his first tattoo. And I like mentioned, I was like, the whole idea of like, you know, hand tattoo, visible tattoos can be essentially be job stoppers. And he's like, what do you that's a thing? And I'm like, yeah, like, this is why I'm having like, you know, a parent talking to their child moment, where I'm like, you shouldn't do this. Like, you need to think this through. Like, come down. If you really want to get tattooed by me, like, think it over. But I mean, most of the people know exactly what they're getting into. But I mean, I feel there is a little bit of people that are just like, oh, I want my first tattoo to be the hand, because, you know, that's what people do, and they don't really like, fully think about the ramifications of it down the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is crazy nowadays. Like,
it's pretty rampant.
It's crazy how even the parents have no idea that that's how we think, and that's like a known thing. Like,
they love when I bring that up. They're so happy that somebody else is telling them, you know, hopefully what they've counseled them.
Some of them I think probably just have like a shit kid, and they're just like frustrated that like another guy said no, so now I'm going to hear it all the way home again, or until we actually find somebody that will do it. you know, because they're probably just they're just not going to be told no by their kid, and they're just going to let the kid get it regardless of how they feel about it, and then they're probably just frustrated with us for saying no because they got to keep going shop to shop.
Now they know they're finding an even more unscrupulous shop, right? Than the one they already came to.
That was actually something that I with a year ago about whether I will continue to tattoo minors, 17-year-olds, or just do across the board 18 or older. And it got to the point where we were having kids come in and leaving deposits, and then they'd get home and their mom and their dad would call and be like, "We need a deposit back. Like, we never agreed to this." And then it was essentially costing the shop money because we had to pay like the refund fee on the credit card machine and stuff like that. And ultimately, like the deposit should be ironclad, but I mean it's essentially entering into a contract. And then just the instance of like the screaming argument in front of me where I'm sitting at like the tattoo chair between the parent and the kid, like screaming about whatever, like
so awkward.
Where it's just like I don't want to do this anymore. Like it's not worth it. The stress of it.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I did get to tattoo some really cool miners that had some really well thought out ideas, and they were cool, and like I get to do this because I got straight A's this year. But mostly, it was too much stress for diminishing returns type of thing. So I opted to just do 18 or older. And honestly, it's been really cool. Like they're like, yeah, I totally respect you. I'll give my reasons, and like I'm totally okay with waiting.
Yeah.
And if not, whatever. Like, if you ever want to continue in 18, awesome. But if not, you can go to other shops.
I changed my view on it. I wouldn't even say recently, like maybe a little over a year ago, about tattooing minors, people under 18, because I had some bad experiences and like I just didn't find it to be worth it. But then when you think about how many minors get tattooed in Connecticut because the surrounding states it's not legal, you think of how much money there is to be made in tattooing minors. But then you also think, why are all the surrounding states illegal? Because there's just a lot of hassle that they probably just didn't want to get involved with what they needed to do in order to make it legal. And I just had some bad experiences, like I had this girl, this is like my main story when justifying it is, I had this girl, at the edge, and she was on her phone texting while I was trying to explain to her that she probably shouldn't get the hummingbird, right on the top of the wrist, so, and I'm kind of just, maybe we should do this, like maybe on the leg or maybe higher up on your arm or, not at all, kind of, just kind of one of those things. And the dad was like, "Hey, are you listening? Are you listening to the man?" And she was like, "Kinda." And from that point on, I was just like, "Fuck it! Like, I'll put it wherever you want. Like, I'll put it on your forehead, and I hope that you enjoyed your experience." Like, but yeah, it just was not cool. Like, if you're not old enough to like listen to somebody giving you instruction, or not even instruction, but just like caring about you, and you're about to get like a permanent procedure done, and you can't even listen to them. Like, I don't think you're old enough to even get it.
Yeah, that's where you got to make that judgment call.
Yeah, if you're not even old enough to listen to the repercussions of what I'm about to do, like, can you even handle getting the tattoo?
It's funny. It's funny because I originally, I'm from Mass, so I originally, like, in the state of Massachusetts, you have to be 18. No parental consent, doesn't really matter. You have to be 18. So when I started working out in Connecticut, it was very weird for me for a while, realizing that I can actually tattoo.
Did you feel like super wrong, like you were doing something like creepy?
I felt like it was just weird because realistically, even I take it from my perspective, at the age of 16, the idea for a tattoo that I wanted compared to when I got my first tattoo at 19 was totally different. And I look back at it, I'm like, that was probably the dumbest thing, because it was, if I remember correctly, it had some like tribal thing, like 90s kind of tribal thing. And I was not it. Like, I think about it now and I'm like, I'm glad I waited before I got my first tattoo. So, but I mean, at 16, it's weird. I mean, I've been working in Connecticut now almost 2 years, and I've kind of, I've tattooed enough minors at that point, parental consent, where it's
Get used to it.
most of the time they're not too bad. Some of them are really but some ideas aren't too bad, and usually I do the same thing, like what you're saying. I'll recommend placement movement. I agree with, unless you're either heavily covered in tattoos or you're in this industry or you're established with yourself, I don't tattoo hands or faces or necks. And I've had a lot of clients who just accept, they've been like, all right, cool, it's fine. And then I've had a lot of people who either walk out or they're just like, that's stupid. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
That's just how it is. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, so
the,
to get into the, like, to follow that up a little bit with like early tattoo experience, like I got tattooed at 15 in Florida legally. The first tattoo I got, I still love. It was done by my uncle, so it has like extreme sentimental value. So and it's a good tattoo. So the difference is, though, like when your parent is involved with the choices, which my parents were, it kind of diverted me from what I would have wanted. So I have a cross on my back instead of like a samurai warrior that I did want. And I would have gotten a fucking epic tattoo if I had my way at 16. But then they stood in the way. So now, for me, when I'm watching out in the shop, like one of the things I will disqualify somebody for is if their parents over micromanaging the tattoo. Like I'll quickly tell the person who's getting it, I'll be like, this is your tattoo, so you can choose to get the tattoo, but I counsel you not to get any tattoo if you have to fully compromise your idea. Like,
Right.
Here is, I'll let you know what's risky and what's not. And obviously, like we're talking about, most of us are pretty conservative, especially like eventually I may be more willing to do it than you guys, but I still will put somebody through the ringer first. Like I'm not just handing some shit out. So if I've already said everything I need to say, I want to make sure that they are also still getting something that they want. And in a lot of cases, some kids will just get whatever because mom or dad said it was okay. And it's fucking dope to have that tattoo for your social media and hype in school because you got a tat when nobody else does.
So many Lil Peep tattoos. Who is that? So many Lil Peep. Like, I don't know. What is this about? So many Playboy tattoos. Like, what? I don't understand.
Imagine what it would have been like, though, earlier.
I had to watch Dennis go through that like a month ago.
Yeah, I remember that situation, dude. That dude's mom, that was awful. That was like,
he came back like a couple weeks later and wanted to get.
Oh God,
he wanted to get a rose on his hand. Mind you, this is his second tattoo and he's 18, and he talked about wanting to join the military. I was like, that ain't happening.
Yeah,
it's just not.
But Dennis,
I'll put it on your wrist.
Nice.
That's fine, but it ain't happening.
Dennis is too nice because
the mom was rough.
Oh yeah, the mom, dude, she was testing my patience. I'll give you that much. Like I was at a point where I was really contemplating my morals at that point. Like I had patience.
To give you some background, Jim, this mom was up front. Like the dude was showing Dennis the tattoo. Dennis got a drawing ready. And then the mother kept like asking about every little part where she's already like, they've been fully clarified. We're not about to copy some shit. And then she's like, you gotta copy this or that, or this isn't exactly like it is in that person's reference, which is someone else's maybe tattoo, or at least like clearly a tattoo artist drawing. It's like, no, you gotta first, like there's so many reasons why this is wrong.
Yeah.
And I went outside to go get to go next door to get food. And she was outside on the phone, just like whoever she was talking to. She was just talking so much shit, like about Dennis's drawing. And I was like, it's a compass. There's a compass rose arrow, those ones, right? I was like, this.
It's just like, and it's supposed to look a little sketchy. Like that's all it was. With a little bit of stuff in the middle.
And Dennis is trying to explain that, like, oh, all the shading and the detail comes in the tattoo, not in the drawing. This is just my guideline. And she's like, there's nothing to it. There's no shading. There's no nothing. She's on the phone. No shading and nothing. And Dennis is like, I do it all during the tattoo, not on the drawing. And it just like, she just didn't get it. And I was like, I wasn't even dealing with that. I was holding back. I was like,
you can honestly, and you can tell like she gives, like he's definitely a spoiled dude, spoiled kid, because you can tell she gives him like everything. Like everything.
Well, when
And
he
it
came
just-
back, and he was just like almost like forcing you to like tattoo his hand.
Yeah,
He's
I was like,
nah,
nah, bro.
He's like, no, but this is what I want.
I'm
And
like,
like,
hey, that's fine. I was
He
like,
was
that's
like-
fine, but it ain't happening. I
Yeah.
literally, I'm like,
but
that's not happening.
that went on for like an hour. After like 10 minutes, I would have told him to kick
Oh.
rocks. Like, that's the thing. But
No, you know what the worst part is? He kept trying to haggle me down to do the tattoo for a lot cheaper.
oh yeah,
For less than what we charge for shop minimal.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, nah, dude.
See, that's definitely part of the nightmare that could be avoided if you're like, nah, I don't tattoo under 18.
yeah.
Or at least just be more judicious so you have a reputation for just cutting people off. You're like,
But
already I
it's,
can tell you're a no
It's
here.
also it's also part of the dynamic of being a like sort of street shop. You know, like
You're gonna
we
get them.
definitely we do custom tattoos and we have appointments, but we're also heavy traffic walk-in shop. So we have that like street shop kind of clientele that just comes in and has no clue how to like talk to human beings. It just like starts throwing out demands, and you're just like, oh.
Like, do you go to a doctor's office and tell them how to run their job? You don't?
Sometimes.
Well, actually,
Sometimes.
I shouldn't even say that after the picture you sent us last week.
Yeah. Forget that. Jim, I don't know
I
if
think
you
they
saw that
need
picture
guidance.
on my Instagram with the sharps container.
Oh yeah, I've actually noticed that when I've gotten blood taken before, like they're so just oblivious to simple bloodborne pathogen.
She would have put her half-eaten donut on that thing if she was eating one. Like she would have just been like, oh, whatever. But I was like, that's crazy. Like, yeah, the chances, like it's just, I'm sure, I don't know, but like those things are swarming with bacteria, like on the inside and like on the outside. It's not a good look.
Yeah.
Even if the risk was very slim, it's just not a good look to put your bandages, have your gauze bandages touch a sharps container, like, and then in a tattoo shop, they're, against the wall, away from everything else,
For those of you out there that don't know the full story, it's a picture that he took at his doctor's office where it shows the sharps containers connected to like where everything, all the wipes, hand sanitizers, all connect to the sharp container.
It wasn't even a doctor's office. It was a blood lab. So that is strictly what they do there. This wasn't like just a random sharp for like every so often when they take blood or whatever. It was, that is the whole purpose of that building is drawing blood. So I felt a little awkward, and then, but what am I going to say? Like, don't take my blood. I'm going to go somewhere else. Like,
Walk away.
I guess I could, but like, I don't know. I needed my blood work done.
I'm sure there's other clinics.
Results are in. I'm good. So it turns out it didn't matter.
At least that you know of now.
Yeah. Right. So, so we've been going for a while.
Fortunately, I apologize for everybody because I had this little man here. But
it's okay. All good. The more the merrier. Do we have any, closing thoughts we want to touch up on? Again, Jim, thank you so much for coming and just chatting with us
no problem.
for a couple hours. Really appreciate it. Like I said, and for anybody that's like just come in or missed like the first like half hour, Jim spent a lot of his time hand making safety masks and donated them to local hospitals and medical facilities. You say like almost 2,000 face masks. Yeah. So that's really cool. I wanted to have him on also, to follow up on the last episode talking about our beginnings. He was an influence of mine in his artwork as well. You can check him out on Instagram at Sick of Jim. Some really nice work here in Connecticut. Traditional, neo-traditional, but also everything else. So
keep your eyes peeled. It was supposed to be happening in June, but probably not going to be happening anymore. I've been working the last probably like 6 months or so on a merch line because my whole moniker is Sick of Jim. I've done Sick of Everything. And I just but I'm
Go ahead. We're gonna get ready to go back upstairs in a bit. All right. Here, you want to take your
LGBT.
You want to take this?
Hold on. Hold on. Say
Yeah,
that. Say
you're
that
cutting
again
out.
for us.
Yeah, that last
Yeah,
minute.
a little bit.
Sorry. It's all going to be sick of hate. It's going to be LGBT geared merch, pride type stuff, but actually drawn cool like tattoo stuff. And the proceeds are going to be going towards an LGBT youth shelter and center. So once pretty much like the world goes back to normal, I can actually start buying all this merch. I have everything designed up. So if you want to help another really great cause, just kind of follow me and keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah,
sounds dope.
So are you still making masks? Is that something that you're still continuing to do, or did you put it on hold for now?
Taking a break because I kind of figured out the monetary. I was pretty much told myself for how much I make in print sales and donations, I'll kind of keep up with the demand. And I've kind of leveled out on that. And also I'm just kind of burnt out. And what we had talked about earlier about kind of going to the stores is a little scary. Like on a typical supply run, I was going into close to 8 to 12 different stores in one day. And it was taking a toll on just, I don't want to be in that environment at this point. So now I think I'm going to kind of let go of the reins. If anyone else wants to pick it up, you are more than welcome to go on my page. It's the newest post, and just see the tutorial if you want to make it. There are plenty of places out there that are still doing it, but I feel like I've kind of hit my wall with it for the time being. Maybe depending on how long this goes on for and the need for it, I might pick up again. But I'm pretty burnt out.
Yeah, understandable.
Blame me. That's a lot of work, man.
Any closing thoughts on tattooing? Anything in general? Anything?
I mean, I had a couple of thoughts like in the last parts of the conversation, but I feel like I could end up going longer. I mean, as long as you guys are fine with that, we can delve back in. But like clients over time, I feel like obviously as you get further in your career, it gets a lot better. But you see like contemporary client issues, like Daryl brought up, like Karen's friends won't be there, when we get back. And like you obviously see the meme pages and the memes are real, that like Terry's are out there. Everybody knows like these people come in and just have this vibe or this feeling that like gets them like very memishly clumped. And then at the same time, I feel like obviously tattooing's getting better. Tattoo clients I think are getting better over time. But Jim, you've been doing it longer. How do you think about like when you started versus now and the difference in the expectation of like what people are asking?
For me, it's definitely, I've seen a shift because when I started, it was like all small stuff, really basic. And for me personally, it's now mostly people coming in and just being like, hey, I want a sleeve. This is the general idea, run with it, which is great because I've developed enough of a style where I personally don't see it, but I mean, they claim that I can do certain styles. And they'll just be like, we like what you do. Here's a general idea. Go for it, which is great. But it is also nice to kind of have that more just like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. But cool. Like, I can just do it. Where instead I'm just like, okay, how the fuck are we going to do this? Like, what do we have to do? So it's definitely been a very interesting shift in probably the last like 2 or 3 years of my tattooing, where it was mostly kind of smaller stuff, and now it's not uncommon to have a consult come in like 4 or 5 in a week, and they all want sleeves, and it's just like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
And then what about just like over
that water over and over again?
Yeah. What about like over time?
Just throw a dragon on?
Where you see like the difference, like how do you feel about like where maybe 8-9 years ago you might have had like I feel like an older tattoo clientele, like somebody who's been getting tattoos since like the 2000s or even before 2000s can come in sometimes and be like, hey, you're gonna do this and this is what I want, blah blah blah, and that's like maybe haggle you on price and stuff. And then now obviously like you still have this like subsect of people that will do it in whatever way. Maybe it's through social media or something more sophisticated and not as forward, but like I feel like even less of that's happening. And do you think that's from just like tattoo television, or popularization, like our clients are getting more educated for sure in some form, and like what's that influence?
Everything. I feel like all of those are a pretty compounding factor. I mean, the shows were huge. I mean, I've personally never watched a single episode of Ink Master, but I feel like it's educating people to a certain level where they have higher expectations than they did before, where, you know, even 10, 15 years ago, or even, you know, longer than that, it was just like, cool, like I just want a tattoo. But now they're like, oh shit, like there's different styles. Like you can do certain things now because I didn't know that this stuff existed outside of, you know, going onto these sites like, you know, like Ink Nation or, you know, Tattoo Now back in the day type of thing, where it was a little bit more of like a niche subset where you had to kind of seek out this information, but now it's fucking everywhere. So, which, I mean, it's just the sign of the times. I mean, information's just flowing better than ever, even outside of tattooing. Just everybody just knows more, whether it's right or wrong, but people are just more familiar with everything. And definitely tattooing has turned into that too, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a natural progression of our craft.
Well said.
Thanks.
I agree. I agree what you like. All those TV shows and stuff like that kind of help influence everything that's going on. Especially now with the way internet, with with the way social media is. You have Instagram. It's a lot easier to actually look at people's work.
Yes.
Compared to like 10 years ago when either you had to go to a shop, maybe lucky enough to see some stuff on like Facebook if you follow the artist. Instagram now, there's so much feed and information of all these different styles and all these different mediums that it attracts people, it attracts these new clients, it attracts these younger clients, next generation of clients, and even next generation of tattoo artists. And I think I think it's definitely progressed now. Even though I'm only 5 years in, I've been kind of obsessed with the tattoo world for over 10 years. And I've seen the progression from then and now. You had mentioned Paradise, that you went to Paradise back in like 2009. I went too. I ended up going for like one day, and the following year I did the artist retreat. And just that alone, that was like the first convention I ever went to. And it was just a whole different experience just for me. So I can imagine how it is for somebody who gets influenced by something like that by going to their first convention. And then they see all these different artists working together, in different styles, different mediums. It's definitely changed. I can't say the difference in the change as much as anybody who's been tattooing a lot longer than me. But I can see the change from the industry itself, in the past 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Instagram is definitely probably like the biggest thing. Like, I can't tell you how many people come in like that I'm tattooing that like have like 1 or 2 tattoos, and they're like, oh, like I follow Steve Butcher, and I'm like, you fucking, like, it's insane. Like, these people, like, people just know about these like upper echelon, like, big name tattooers, or even just like really like obscure ones where I'm like, I have that moment of like gatekeeping where I'm like, you know about that person?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the internet fucking exists. Like,
yeah, and mentioning like those shows, like that was a good time back in the day. Like that, that organization fell apart, unfortunately. For whatever. But then, coming in the future, like we've talked about it in the shop, like we would definitely participate in and very much encourage some new torch carrier in that realm to like bring some of these networking opportunities and ways to like enjoy art with other tattooers that are more like collaborative and embracing the abundance that there is available in tattooing, and kind of like sharing the wealth of knowledge and getting networked with like local good conscientious tattoo artists. Like that's definitely been missing since that ended. So like we have our local conventions, but I think there could be a a different dynamic, and I think the business model proved itself, but the logistics of putting that together are extremely difficult, so you need like the right people and the right setup.
Yeah, we've talked about it before about maybe reviving something similar to the artist retreat, where you have a bunch of people get together, a bunch of artists get together and just paint for 3 days. Have little seminars and whatever. Yeah, it's 3 days of painting, man. The artist retreat was a 3-day thing of just straight up,
and it was 24 hours that like
in 24 hours in the rooms. Yeah, and it was so cool to watch a lot of these artists that like are normally just not tattooing and actually just painting. Like I got to see like Juan Salgado paint for 3 days, one piece, one piece, all in acrylic, and it looked like he did it out of like watercolor, and it was just this multiple face of different colors. And I'm sure you've seen it. I watched him do it for 3 days straight, like just checking on his work and just chit-chatting with him, and chit-chatting with like Kai at one point, because he was one of the main guys there. And it was just, there was all that going on. Then every morning they had like figure drawing, where they spent like an hour and a half of just having models there so you can figure draw, learn how to actually draw the position of bodies right. And I remember Sean Barber did like a little study with doing portraits and how he does his portraits, and the type of paint that he uses. And he did right in front of at least like a good 50 or 60 of us, he did a quick little portrait of one of the people who helped do the retreat, and literally did it like right in front of us in like 20 minutes. Just like a quick sketch, like a quick one too. And I'm like, it would be cool to do something like that now, even in the modern age, with all digital work that we have, that we can do, watercolor stuff that we can do now that we couldn't do before. And it'd be fun to actually do something like that again. Like, I'd be down if we could find a way to actually make that happen again.
I think it needs to start smaller before it can get that big,
Yeah.
Like it's hard enough to like, in the past, these artists have tried to have like paint nights at shops and stuff like that. And like the turnout's never like, a lot of people just are like but actually maybe if it was something that was advertised as larger, it would give them more incentive to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know.
Especially when it involves like a vacation in a way, like you're going and you're retreating, so you are getting away from your normal week to week and you're making the plan. But yeah, it has to have that extra, like, you're staying in a cool place type of feel. Like I would definitely see it happening in more of like a venue that can be enjoyed, for gathering in outside of just, a convention center or whatever is necessary to make the art. So there's, like they did it at Jiminy Peak, but it wasn't the artist gathering. It was the, or it was the gathering. It wasn't the retreat. So
it was that was pretty dope. Same spot. They did. I think the other thing that would probably influence it is like having like a couple of bigger named artists there that do, not do multiple medium things. Obviously it doesn't have to be huge like that, because it's not like anybody would be like, people would be like, what the hell is this? But starting off small and working your way big would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, wherever sees, someone who has a seminar, if they see the opportunity to make some money off the seminar or whatever, I think that's where you start to bring some of those people in.
And also, I mean, once this whole thing is over, everyone is just going to be super eager to go back to tattooing. And if you try to entice them with a 3-day retreat,
no one wants to do that.
Freak out.
Yeah,
no,
that
right
now they're on their retreat
for like 3 months now, so they're just, I think they're a little over it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
maybe something more like the gathering, where it's more about tattooing and like collaborative tattooing. I feel like, to some degree, the local area is not getting down to that for sure.
Or it's just a continuous convention after party. It's a convention, but no tattooing at all. You just go and sit in booths and do nothing. I'd be down for that. That actually sounds relaxing.
The after party convention.
I'll host it. I'll host the convention.
There you go.
but there's no tattooing allowed. I can't swing that. I can't get the clearance, but it's $800 a booth. You got to pay
You
for
just
your
hang out
own
and do nothing. the
hotel
whole
and
time.
everything. FYI to any tattooers in the chat too. I was just over at Pulse, and he just got in face masks, and arm sleeves, stuff like that. So a little bit like extra protection, like if you wanted to stock up for when you go back to work. He does have that in stock now, and you can call him, and he's doing pickups, I believe, so you can pick up like directly from him. So.
I've seen more people working big projects with arm sleeves, and it has me intrigued because if you have that extra ability to really like rest on an area that you might not have rested on otherwise, because you would have had to hover it for cross contamination purposes, I think like that can allow for some better results. And I'd be intrigued to talk to some people about it that I've seen using it more. I mean, you guys don't really use it. Jim, you use it
every tattoo, right?
Arm pins?
Yeah.
I pretty much wear them for every tattoo I do.
Every tattoo?
Yeah, it's fucking annoying, but I mean, it helps my back because otherwise I'd have to like keep my arms covered up. So at least I can, put my arms on them and realize I'm not getting covered in goo and ointment and blood and all that stuff. So I look like every day when I'm tattooing.
How do you manage? So the part that intrigues me most is how do you manage the contamination of the wrist area where the glove covers and where you have to reapply and take them off?
So pretty much there's like elastic bands up like the top and the bottom, and what I do is pull the elastic band over my thumb, poke a hole through it, so pretty much it's like above the glove line, and then put the glove on. So pretty much it's essentially like those like old school like emo sleeves that people would like cut out, and so essentially it's that.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, all right.
On the back end of it, I just tear a couple holes, so at least like it's breathing, so it's not just filling with sweat for the however long you're tattooing with. And then pretty much like whenever we're going to the bathroom and stuff like that, you just take it off and you just put on a new pair. But yeah, just poking the holes in the thumbs, because otherwise it just rides up and then it's completely useless. It's not doing anything.
Yeah, didn't even consider that too. But like, so you're taking one glove off, right? And then now you have a bare hand and you're going to go for the other one. Like, are you grabbing from the outside then instead? Like you're grabbing the outside of like the top of the glove from removing inside out from there?
Pretty much what I would do is, because the elastic bands are so weak, pretty much like before taking off, like if these are both gloved on, just grab the top of it, pull it enough to rip the elastic band, and then pretty much deglove, and then like one finger underneath the other side, rip that, and pretty much do it that way.
So every time you're changing gloves, you're changing the armbands essentially?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, like really only like changing gloves when, because typically I don't like to take a lot of breaks.
Yeah, no, same. Feel you.
So like it's just like, okay, cool, it's been 2 hours, let's stretch out, and then I'll just kind of like take everything off and let my arms like de-sweat and just filled with disgusting body.
Yeah, I could see, especially the sweat starts to accumulate. Like always during a tattoo, you get that nice fresh sweat. There's that great debate in all shops about temperature. Who's sweating, who's not, what rate it is, what temperature is inside the shop. So
I'm always sweating.
Oh, we got an artist that's always doing that. So we always have to readjust the the temperature in the shop.
As soon as I start tattooing, it's like I'm like damp.
Yeah, you're hot. You get hotter.
I don't know why, but like I take my gloves off and there's like puddles. It's gross. I'm like, what the? It has no idea. It doesn't matter what temperature it is in the shop. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, my hands can get sweaty. I don't even have that sweaty of hands in general, though.
Maybe I should start wearing like bigger gloves, but I like really tight gloves.
Yeah, I mean that's ergonomically that's the right way to go. But I like the info about the arm sleeves because I'm very intrigued about trying that. And yeah, I see the same merits, like the back, the neck. Like I'm very into the ergonomics and making sure that 10, 15, 20 years down the road, I don't need, major surgery on a shoulder, rotator cuff, whatever. Like get my stuff where I can access it.
Yeah. That shit's scary to think about.
It comes with the job, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It sucks, but
Daryl asks, with the added PPE, I think that's personal protective equipment, will you be raising your prices after this whole thing? I don't know. It's hard for me.
For us, maybe it could increase the shop minimum if the prices were that different. But you know, most tattoos it's only going to increase $5 whatever. So maybe I would ask you guys, hey, throw an extra $5 on each tattoo or something. But I don't see it going that outrageous. I think that there could be some issues once, and probably when inflation starts to be obvious. Like there will be a difference, you know, in tattoo price. You don't want to have like a spike in inflation fuck with what you're earning based on, you know, your worth.
right.
But yeah.
I mean, I also think if it's something like masks or arm sleeves, and it's like masks are something that we're buying here at home by ourselves right now anyways, and if it's something that we need to continue to use like in the future, like I feel like stuff like that you can, you know, as an artist working at a shop, you can take care of on your own, you know, instead of like working out some kind of deal. It's just like, I'll just buy my masks, you know, and just do my part, you know. And if someone runs out of mask, you can give them a fucking mask. I don't know. Like, I just went and I just bought like a handful at like a gas station today. They're like $11. Comes with like 6 of them or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's I don't think I'm gonna like jack my prices up where people are gonna be like, whoa, what happened, dude? Like, you know, that's so expensive. Like, I don't think it'd be anything like noticeable.
But
what about you, Jim? How are you? Do you think it's business as usual when you get back?
Like as far as pricing goes, or
Pricing, just general, like, you know, how you run your, you know, your own personal business.
well, based on what the hairdressers are going to have to be doing as far as like getting like non-pro stuff, like I mean, you've been in my room, like all the walls are literally just all line drawings, like hundreds of them. So I'm probably going to pull those out for now, just because I don't want any issues with someone being like, oh, you can't actually clean those off type of thing.
Right.
Raising price, I don't know yet because I don't know what's going to be required of us.
Yeah.
I don't see an issue raising my hourly rate, but maybe the minimum to, you know, maybe like $20 more, just depending on what we are required by state type of thing.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, you also, I mean, with a one-on-one client, if you're dealing with someone who's getting a 4 to 5 hour session versus someone who wants to pay the bare minimum, that's an extra exposure.
Yeah.
Technically, just for the bare minimum of the tattoo. So, like, I mean, chances are when I get back, I'll be dealing with all my clients that have given me deposits for, you know, tattoos that are, you know, a couple hours long versus someone coming in wanting to pay shop minimum for something small. I would just probably hold off, you know, until things are a little bit more clear, just letting anybody in.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be going through a lot more gloves, and gloves are obviously expensive, especially when you allocate them properly and when people use them. But some of the ways that I would think that we would burn through gloves more because we'd be providing them to to our clients for the first time ever as well would be could possibly not be relevant, because I heard some people talking about when doctors' offices are being reopened and like in certain ways. And facilities, they're not being allowed to offer up a public restroom anymore. And like, obviously, if you're doing a long tattoo, like you need to be able to do that. So I hope that's not part of the regulations for us. Like, I think I've got that issue kind of solved, but at the same time, like maybe the guidelines on it are going to be even more difficult. Like, it's tough to know what to expect.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get more info on that as we see, you know, more things open, and hopefully it just happens pretty quickly.
Any time will tell. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll add it to the news in every episode.
Yeah.
Tattoo news.
I mean, it's hard to not make this like a Corona podcast. You know, it really is hard to not make it, you know, such focused on like when we're going back to work and what we're going to do when we get back to work. We all know what we're going to do, and we all know when it's going to be. It's going to be later, and it's going to be tattooing. So, I mean, there you go. I guess for everyone wondering, there's the answers. But
Yeah, well, I mean, overall, I think that covers all things that I wanted to touch on. If we're done, we can go through like maybe a little shout outs to, names, tags, whatever people can find you on. Obviously, anyone who's watching here on Twitch, hit us with a follow. It's super appreciated. Getting close to Twitch affiliation, so that's pretty dope. We're gonna keep doing this show, and we'll have all sorts of guests. And Jim, thank you very much for coming on. I super, super appreciate what you've done with the masks, as I'm sure everybody does. But it's an honor to have you on, and you're welcome again in the future. I hope to be doing this for a while. And you will get into even more regular themes and subject matter as time goes on, and we see what people like.
We're hoping that it slowly gets a little more organized as we do this more often. And you're technically our first guest, so it's just kind of. Sometimes a lot of it's just like sitting there and looking around, and being like, "Yep," But
well, it was only our second episode, so.
No, but I really appreciate it. I just thought it would be like a really good way to kick off the podcast and just talk with someone that's in the same boat, currently out of work, waiting for answers, but doing something other than doing something productive and doing something good for somebody else, other than crying and complaining about where you are. What I'm saying? Like, we're all in the same boat. Like, complaining about it isn't going to get us to work any faster. So thank you very much for doing something productive, and I'm sure everyone that's received your mask has been very appreciative of it. And if you have any closing thoughts or some plugs to throw in there, I know you're talking about your clothing line, but let people know where to reach you, or
Instagram at sickofjim.com. On Twitch as Messy Blumpkin, but I don't stream or anything. I just lurk people.
Yes.
And on YouTube too, but I just lurk people there. I'm also Messy Blumpkin on there. Instagram, Facebook, you can search Sick of Jim. Don't try to find my personal. I'm gonna friend you.
Any statements to any thoughts for tattooers? Anybody watching? Any insight? Anything? Just anything quick. Follow your dreams. Follow your heart. Yeah.
Cat poster.
Yeah. You can do it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And Dennis, you wanna?
Oh yeah, Jim. This is Dennis, by the way.
Oh hey.
Hey. Started a little late. Oh man, only wants me to put him to bed. So that's why if I leave in and out, it's because I take care of my son. He does not want mom to do it. But I guess on another note, I also have a YouTube channel. I do a lot of time lapses for a lot of my work, digital and paint. So for anybody out there who wants to take a look, it's just Angry Pencil Studios on YouTube. I'm actually due to do one pretty soon because I haven't done one in a little bit. But for anybody out there, just stay safe. This industry is going to get right back to it. When it does, it's probably going to hit hard. And just be prepared, working late nights, because that's probably what's going to be, all of us and majority of us doing it. At least, that's what we're hoping for.
I'm going to work every hour of every day. I'm never going to go home.
I already told the wife the same thing. I'm like, once we start going back to work, I'm going to be like home late, working. Like, I personally, like, I can't wait to go back to work. I'm one of those people that like, yeah, it's cool, off. We have unemployment coming, but I'd rather be working. I'd rather be earning my pay, earning my money. So for all you guys that are still waiting, it'll happen. Just gotta be patient.
Cool.
All right.
Oh, and don't shit where you eat.
There it is, all the life lessons. Well, we'll catch you guys for TatCast 3. I'm going to end the stream now. So thank you. Have a good night.